Part 64. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 632. Hindenburg, you are finished, this is what Sugu thought. Stretched out, only Veneto's hand was stretched out. Hindenburg, meet your fate and have your head pressed to the ground. Leaning forward hard, Veneto finally found that his hands could not reach Hindenburg's head. Noticing something strange about the surrounding atmosphere, Hindenburg finally put Veneto down. Hey, why did you stop before you even took out the Italian weapon? As a mature eldest sister, the matter is over. After all, Veneto cannot get angry and take revenge afterwards. She just stared at Hindenburg's face for a long time, took a deep breath, and wondered where such a brainless woman could come from. No longer in the mood, and not needing anyone to lead the way, Veneto walked straight into the garrison without saying a word. Hindenburg was completely unintentional, and her expression flashed with confusion. What are you doing? Why don't you just hug me? Why are you so angry? It was baffling, she really didn't know why the little loli was so angry. Sugu was speechless, shook his head and left, leaving behind the sentence, Hindenburg, you are finished. The little angel Kamichia was laughing beside her. She really had no idea of worrying about the humiliation or death of her subjects. She took her sister's hand and ran after Veneto. Seeing everyone leave, Missouri could think of Veneto. She glanced at Hindenburg and really didn't know what to say. Rather than gloating over one's misfortune, seeing Veneto's leaving figure made me feel a little sad for no reason. Such hurtful things are not your fault. Even if you want to bully someone, you should not slap them in the face. Sugu caught up with Veneto. The harmony of the garrison was still very important. Hindenburg didn't mean it. He said, Hindenburg has no brains. Don't argue with her. I know. Being able to feel Veneto's anger, Sugu said, we will torture her well when we have the opportunity. It's boring. I won't ask her to practice. Do you think I'm a child if you want to retaliate? Veneto's voice was calm, as if he was saying something ordinary. However, it can still be seen from her face. It is obvious that there is something that has not been said yet. I want to push her to the ground, I want to smash her dog head. Hindenburg's parameters are good, but Sugu is still a little skeptical. You only have a drug cannon. Nay, he saw Veneto gritting his teeth and he didn't dare to say anything more, so he advised, don't be angry. I'm not angry. After taking 2 steps, Veneto stopped and said, Admiral, tell me honestly, do I really look like a destroyer? Sugu couldn't bear it, but from an objective point of view, you really look like a destroyer. Of course, no matter how hypocritical it is, I would never speak like this. I thought that Veneto would feel sorry for himself, or else he would squat on the road and burst into tears, and then he would need to be comforted by the admiral. After all, Veneto is a mature elder sister and said very strongly. She turned around and chuckled, everyone can grow up, like Ayanami, Shikinami, Z1 and Z16. They can grow up, and so can I. Yes. Admiral, don't worry so much, I never mind my height. My eldest sister, is your comparison object already a destroyer? Yeah, height doesn't matter, I believe that. But breasts do matter, I'm sure. Thinking that ship girls are very idealistic beings, and as admirals, they need to be given courage, Sugu said, Veneto will definitely become mature. He just needs to grow up, just like every destroyer. When the time comes, he will become more mature. He is more powerful than everyone else, taller and more explosive, no one can compare with him. Veneto waved his hand, as long as Richelieu is like that, that's enough. Richelieu is not enough, the Prince of Wales is better. Well, in that case, let's be like the Prince of Wales. The smile on Veneto's face was brighter and brighter than ever before, but the bitterness could still be seen. Sniffing, there was no good way to comfort him, Sugu said, "No matter, since we are home, let's go to the office first." "Good." Before taking 2 steps, Veneto stopped again. Her expression was calm and she definitely didn't cry. "Just go back to the town hall. There is no need to go to the office to see Lexington. I don't know her very well. I want to take a walk in the town hall." Being able to understand Veneto's need for a quiet walk, Sugu slowly said, "Go ahead." Although he couldn't see it on the outside, he was really melancholy in his heart. Veneto walked alone in the garrison. "Being treated like a destroyer is completely unbearable and I really want to kill him with a single shot. However, the other party is not malicious." Veneto looked down and saw that he was only so tall, so there was nothing he could do about being treated like a destroyer. Even if you dress maturely, no one will regard you as a battleship when you are 1.3 meters tall. I looked around and saw no one, so I stretched out my hand to touch. So flat, not big breasts, I'm so sorry. I don't care verbally, but I still want to be bigger in my heart. Not to mention being like the Prince of Wales, it would be enough to have someone like Kaio, and it would be nice to be able to exchange it with Aviel. The explosive figure is something I have only dreamed about in my dreams. At that time, I had breasts of such staggering size that it gave me a headache, the buckles of my underwear would break every day, and the Admiral would pester me every day. At the same time, Fuzu and Helena all became flat-chested, and the Prince of Wales even turned into a little lowly. What a wonderful dream, but it was just a dream after all, and there was nothing that could be done about it. Being completely unfamiliar with the townhouse, Veneto also met many people while walking around here, such as San Juan, Guam, and the Raiders. Everyone knew each other. Veneto mentioned that she had followed the Admiral back and exchanged a few words. She saw everyone walking towards the office. The Admiral is back, no one wants to talk to her, and Veneto doesn't mind either, she is happy and free. Looking at the governor's mansion, the tall magnolia branches are lush and leafy, and there are also many coconut trees and phoenix trees planted here. The short shrubs are trimmed neatly into a rectangular shape, and one can guess that this is all about counterattack. Veneto. When Veneto heard someone calling him, he turned around and immediately saw Xiaozai with short pink hair. In addition, there was Fanfan in a skirt, and Rafi in a t-shirt and heated pants. During the trip, I heard the Admiral talk about it, and these 3 people were the 3 bullies guarding the mansion. Bullying Amethyst every day, he has time to instigate Thatcher to make trouble, and then watch the fun. Veneto is naturally not afraid of the 3 bullies of the guard house, just a bunch of little Lolita. She smiled meaninglessly, raised her hands, and said, "Xiaozai, Utopia, Lafite, I tell you, the Admiral is back," and I followed him back. His expression instantly became excited. Xianxiang and Lafite ran away, but Xiaozai still stood there. Veneto asked in confusion, "Xiaozai, why don't you leave? Don't you want to be the Admiral?" "Veneto, you look unhappy." Xiaozai is still very perceptive. Although she usually bullies people, she will not really make them cry. If someone is sad, she will comfort them, even if they hand over snacks and toys. Just like this, she is the #1 healing tool in the world, and no one can compare with it. He didn't expect that the little Lolita would see through his feelings. Even so, Veneto was not prepared to admit anything. "I'm not unhappy." "Okay, Xiaozai, go find the Admiral. He talks about you every day and misses you so much." Xiaozai, who is essentially a healer, shook her head firmly. Even if she missed the Admiral again, she was not in a hurry. She said deliberately, "The Admiral is always annoying and wants me to sleep with him every day. He is also bad and deceitful. He has been out for so long and hasn't come back. I ignore him, lousy Admiral." Veneto said, "He hasn't come back for so long, all because of us. He came to find us." Xiao Zai crossed his arms and said in an old-fashioned manner, so I decided to forgive him, because he brought the best Veneto back. Veneto thought to himself that the admiral liked Xiao Zai more than anyone else, and there was a reason for that. He was so cute and healing. Xiao Zai suddenly remembered that every time someone returned to the town hall, the admiral would take everyone around. When she had a rare opportunity, she looked around, patted her chest, and said, "Leave it to Xiao Zai. Xiao Zai will give Veneto a good introduction to our tutelary residence. No place will be spared. Those who want to refuse are originally just wanting to relax." However, Xiao Zai was so enthusiastic that Veneto could not refuse. I thought in my heart, there are admirals and sisters, everyone is a very good person, the garrison is indeed the best. The tour guide of Xiao Zai led the way, and the two of them walked around the governor's mansion. This is a warehouse. The warehouse manager is Leipzig, a cheapskate. Sister Hayabusa has also been helping in the warehouse recently. Veneto, look over there, there is Sister Akagya. She sits there every day without getting bored. I can sit like that for half an hour at most. Well, it seems a bit difficult, but at least I can sit there for 20 minutes. Let me tell you, Sister Akagi is actually a gluttonous sister. She has to eat a lot of things every day and is the most difficult to maintain. She especially likes to eat snacks. Let me think about it, does Veneto know about the carrot on the stick? Veneto shook his head. Xiao Zai said happily, the admiral told me that in order to make the donkey do its work, the farmer hung a carrot in front of the donkey. In order to taste the delicious food, the donkey kept walking forward. You said to hang a snack in front of Sister Akagya, will Sister Akagya look like a donkey? Of course not, Veneto laughed dumbly. Xiao Zai thoughtfully said, Sister Akagya can't do it, but Sister Quincy can definitely do it. She is an idiot. Suddenly thinking of something, Xiao Zai covered his mouth with both hands, with a face full of surprise and said one word after another, Quincy perpetual motion machine. Veneto touched Xiao Zai's head and said, it's a good idea. Xiao Zai took Veneto's hand away and said, don't touch my head, I don't want to become bald. Xiao Zai clasped his hands together again, haha, Amitba, the donor of Veneto. The donor of Veneto or the layman of Veneto. The two of them continued walking, Xiao Zai introducing them all the way. Where is the dormitory building? There are 2 dormitories in the town government now. Where is the cafeteria? Sister Yuxian is in charge of the cafeteria. The snacks she makes are super delicious. She eats so many every day that she feels like she is about to gain weight and become a little fat person. In the coffee shop of the town hall, Sister Atlanta knocked down the wall, and the 2 rooms combined became so big. Walking in the corridor, Xiao Zai suddenly showed a regretful expression and said, it's a pity that Children's Day is over. We did a lot of activities on Children's Day. The garrison was decorated with lights, including colorful strips, balloons, and lanterns. I have a conical hat, which was made for me by Sister Prince Eugen. Sister Prince Eugen is very clever and handy. We also organized a knowledge competition. They were all quizzes. Everyone also performed in the evening, Raffi sang, Fantasia danced, Sigsby and Sullivan performed Romeo and Juliet, and Firefly performed The Little Match Girl. We also had gifts from a lottery. I was unlucky. I only got a box of chocolates, liqueur chocolates, and I felt dizzy after eating them. Somares got a magic wand that used 2A batteries. It will glow at night, and fireflies really want it. U-47 got a white soft hat, which doesn't look good. Children's Day is a very happy one. The only pity is that the Admiral is not at the guardhouse. It feels like something is missing, and the house is a little disappointed. However, she quickly became happy again, by the way, Veneto, I will take you to see something. After crossing the playground, Xiao Zai took Veneto to the corner of the town hall. At first, Sugu wanted to stay, but the wishing wall was wiped clean and turned into a blackboard wall for the little Lolita to draw chalk on. Xiaozai excitedly pointed at the blackboard wall and said, "Look, look." At this time, Veneto saw that the blackboard wall was covered with graffiti, and many large characters were written in different colors of chalk, "Happy Children's Day." June passed early, and Children's Day passed too, but what is left? Veneto smiled, remembering that when she lived in the kanji branch, Kamichia also liked graffiti. It's just that their level is not good enough, which makes people really dare not compliment them. The little house is drawn quite decently. The square is the house, the triangle is the roof, the squares are the windows, and the small rectangular chimney is smoking. Then I could barely tell that the round thread drawn with red chalk was the sun, and the green lines were the grass. The blackboard drawings in front of me are different. They are very good. They don't feel like they can be drawn by a little girl. The blackboard painting is clearly a personal cartoon. If Sugu were here, he could see that the complete game drawing was painted on the blackboard wall. Xiaozai introduced with a smile, "Sister Leipzig took us to draw it, and the dead otaku girl also painted it. Sister Richelieu also painted several, look at the Sukuf hugging the big inflatable dolphin. We spent it took a week to finish the painting, and I didn't stop for a moment. I came here after eating, and came here as soon as I got up." Xiaozai pointed to the pink-haired little man drawn on the blackboard, "This is me. Look, this is a big mackerel, and she is a loving cook. Legion of bongos." Veneto must not recognize the destroyer Arashi. Her expression is always exaggerated, ha ha ha, mosquito-repellent eyes. Cushing Xiaozai moved his finger a little further, next to her is Mahan. Keelan's throat is love. Veneto noticed keenly that everyone's movements were drawn on the blackboard, and she asked, "What are everyone shouting?" "Children's Day on June 1st is our holiday." Everyone opens their mouths, which means everyone shouts together, "Happy Children's Day on June 1st." Veneto smiled, "What a warm and joyful blackboard painting." Xiaozai's wish is to fill the port area with laughter, and the blackboard painting was actually her suggestion. Regardless of whether he returned to the Tutelary mansion or not, none of them could be missing. Of course, since it's Children's Day, I only draw children. Be it a girl or a big sister, there are none. Xiaozai also knew that Sister Richelieu secretly drew the Admiral among many people. Wanting to make Veneto happy, Xiaozai searched and searched on the blackboard drawing. He pointed at a person wearing a mesh top hat. "Here you are, Veneto." Veneto saw it. Veneto rested his head on Kamichia's head on the blackboard, smiled happily, and opened his mouth wide, as if he was shouting very hard. "Happy Children's Day! Happy Children's Day! Happy Children's Day!" She was smiling just now, but her smile gradually disappeared. Veneto wanted to be angry, but in front of him was Xiaozai's innocent and cute face. With nowhere to vent her anger, she took a deep breath and trembled all over. She was about to take out the Italian cannon, but suddenly realized that there was nothing to be angry about. From Hindenburg onwards, no one meant any harm. Xiaozai suddenly found something in his pocket and asked, "Hey, Veneto, do you want some candy?" "Good. Throw away the 381mm cannon, and I don't want to be a battleship anymore." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De Rong Yan. Chapter 633. Hindenburg acted recklessly, relying on his status as a battleship to forcibly raise his head against Veneto. He tried hard to fight, but failed. His bright smile did not conceal his inner melancholy. Obviously everyone is a battleship, so why do I only have the body of a toddler, no height, no breasts, no butt? It's a miserable world. Veneto wanted to walk alone in the townhouse and think about life and the future. Anyway, we have returned to the governor's mansion. Now that we are home, we can do whatever we want. Sugu agreed. He didn't know what Veneto would go through, but he wasn't too worried. I thought to myself that the destroyer humiliated Veneto. This is the tone and political correctness. The Italian elder sister should be used to it and she will be able to recover soon. Not only Veneto, but Sugu was also a little troubled and had a lot of things to worry about. Even though I found the Italian little Lolita, I haven't returned to the town hall for so long. This is an unchanging fact. The promise has not been fulfilled. Girls, it is only right to be unreasonable, no matter what you have done. In short, there must be a road before the car reaches the mountain, and it will naturally be straight when the boat reaches the bridge. The governor's mansion is located in the south, and it has become relatively hot in June. Obviously no one likes to wander around in the sun. Sugu took everyone to the office and saw Prince Eugen, York, Juno and others from a distance. It's just that because of the distance, the other party didn't see the side, and he didn't say hello. Andrea and Kaio were walking at the back of the team and were looking around. The girl was full of curiosity about the townhouse. Sister, is this our townhouse? Yes, our townhouse. Can't you go out now that you're here? Kaio misunderstood. Andrea nodded. As a ship girl, of course you can't leave after joining the garrison. But it would be boring to stay in the town guard mansion every day. What should I do if I want to go to Chuangziu? Andrea couldn't help but reached out and poked her sister Kaio on the head, saying, "Idiot." The town hall was not that big, and we soon arrived in front of the office. In the office below and in the dormitory above, Sugu happened to see Saratoga walking past in a one-shoulder skirt on the second floor, with long blonde hair draped softly behind her. My sister-in-law is very cute and I like her very much. This is truly a long time no see and I miss her very much. Sugu shouted, "Gia Gia." Standing on the second floor, she heard the voice of longing. The girl followed the direction of the voice and immediately saw Sugu. A smile suddenly appeared on her face. "Brother-in-law, you just realized that you are back. You have gone wild somewhere. You are going to die. Ah." "Ha," I jumped, "you caught me." Sugu saw Saratoga resting her hands on the railing, and thought that if he agreed, she might really jump off. My sister-in-law likes to do weird things, like secretly having an affair with her brother-in-law. He shook his head quickly. "Gia Gia, if you can't catch it, stop making trouble." Saratoga opened her mouth angrily and was about to say something else, but Sugu had already disappeared under the eaves. Aviel was the first to say hello to Sister Gaga from behind, and then the Italian little Loli's greetings came one after another. However, the blonde girl had already disappeared in the corridor on the second floor. Entering the office, Sugu saw Lexington and his wife sitting behind the desk. Her long flaxen hair was tied up, and she was wearing a white admiral uniform and a large cap. She was completely dressed like an admiral, not a secretary ship. Apparently, she also likes to do weird things occasionally, like wearing her husband's clothes. Lexington had already seen Sugu, but before she could make any move, everyone had already entered the office. Staring at the admiral who had been away from home for a long time, her expression was lifeless, at least not visible on the surface. Since there were many people around, she still remained reserved. She just smiled and joked, "My great admiral finally found out that he is back. How many days has it been beyond his promise?" Sugu replied, "We are not playing outside anymore." "I didn't say you were playing." Lexington blinked, and Sugu thought to himself that his wife really had a problem with her belly. It was strange that she couldn't see it at all when they first met. No, someone who would claim to be a child bride with a small mouth in his arms actually has a dark underbelly. Of course, he knew that Lexington was just a joke, but Sugu still explained, "We searched all the big cities in the Mediterranean before we found everyone." Kamichia wandered around the office, touching here and there and looking at that. The other Italian little Lolita were also full of curiosity. Andrea and Kaio were better, but not much better, and their attention was attracted by the trophies in the filing cabinet. Lexington's eyes wandered around everyone, scanning the reputations around Sugu, his expression unchanged. Sister-in-law Saratoga came over quickly, and her sister was beside her. She was still quite reserved, just sitting next to Sugu. In the past, he pretended to be cool in front of his sister and pretended to be cold with Sugu, but now he doesn't hide himself anymore. I only act out occasionally when I think of it, and Lexington just treats it as a joke. There is not much to say next. I mainly introduce Ko, who joins the garrison. Saratoga glared at the girl as usual, but she couldn't see any clue. Pout, huh, no threatening target. Sugu then talked about how he found everyone. The journey was already a bit hard, and he tried to describe it as getting more difficult. If you have the reputation to be by your side and take care of you, why do you have to work so hard? Lexington said. Sheng Sheng said, this is our responsibility as maids. Head maid, you really don't know how to be humble. It's not like you to fight back. Come to think of it, Lexington had no plans for a confrontation, no secret war at all. After all, she knew very well that the harmony of the harem was the most important, and whoever danced the most happily would be the less popular. Another main reason is that as a ship girl, you can have jealousy, but there is no intrigue. After briefly explaining his experience, Gugu asked curiously, Huda and the others should have come back very early. I came back early. There is enough time left to run back again. Sue ignored Lexington's resentment and asked, does Hood fight with Bismarck every day? How can there be a fight? Admiral, you have been thinking about all sorts of random things all day long. Sugu thought to himself that even if there was a fight or quarrel, it would probably be Bismarck who bullied Hood unilaterally. It would be better to say that Prince Eugen bullied Hood for Bismarck. Anyway, Hood was just a funny character and had no fighting ability. Smiling and nodding, he asked again, how was Hindenburg's stay at the townhouse? We didn't talk well on the pier and went after Veneto. Fortunately, she has adapted to life in the town hall, don't worry. If you offend the eldest sister, you won't be able to rest assured in the future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 634. As time went by, more and more people discovered that Sugu was back, and they gathered in the office. They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Sugu had a good chat with everyone. Andrea was also talking to people familiar with the town hall, and she introduced them excitedly. This is Kaio, the battleship Kaio, my sister. The black-haired girl's face was slightly red. She was not used to this kind of situation, but she still tried to say hello, hello everyone. My sister, no one can bully her, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. As a good sister who loves her sister, Andrea put her hands on her hips. She likes to force her sister to study, but that's for her own good. Andrea vowed, but everyone in the townhouse was not afraid of her, and even liked to bully her, so everyone spoke up. Daughter, Kayueli. In fact, everyone didn't know why the admiral was called Andrea Kayueli, and there was a daughter. Heavy artillery. To be honest, Andrea has become very strong after growing up, surpassing many battleships, but everyone still remembers her appearance when she first arrived at the garrison. It's obviously a battleship, but the statistics of the ship's equipment are too weak. It happens to be a large loli and a small girl. I found that everyone didn't care about me, and even repeatedly exposed my shortcomings, and wanted to scold me loudly. But he knew very well that the angrier he was, the happier everyone would be. Andrea had no choice but to glare. Even her sister was bullied. Such a cruel scene made Ko feel a little scared, but everyone was very friendly to her. Richelieu looked at Kale Locks and said, "Kale Locks is very beautiful. Have some snacks, and some fruit." Santiago swung her tail, making people want to pull it, and she continued, "Euxian made it, it's great, it's so delicious that your tongue will swallow it." Some people tried to destroy the originally warm scene. They slandered in a low voice, "I don't think Kaio can escape the clutches of the Admiral. Thinking about Missouri, it has only been so long, and it feels like it is about to fall." Speaking of which, Akizuki Shina and Akizuki Eri are the two daughters of the Admiral. South Dakota just came over, panting. Sugu sat by the sofa, thinking that fat people always get tired easily, so he said smoothly, "South Dakota, you are fat again." Wearing a lace headband and a naughty skirt, South Dakota expected the Admiral to have romantic words for her. After all, he had obtained the Ring of Oath and was a rare presence in the garrison. Unexpectedly, she looked around and said angrily, "I'm not fat." There was Andrea in the front and South Dakota in the back, which immediately pushed the happy atmosphere in the office to a climax. Xianxiang and Lafite came earlier, and everyone was talking here, so they were quiet. Thatcher, the little fool, also came over, but she was quite direct. She jumped and lay in Sugu's arms, raising her head and blinking her big eyes like a puppy begging for food. "Admiral, you promised us the gift." Fortunately, it was already prepared in the port city. Sugu gestured to the corner of the office, and the little loli ran away. Before Kong Xiang ran away, Sugu grabbed the girl and asked, "Isn't Xiaozai with you? We just got together. We met Veneto in the corridor outside the warehouse. She said you were back, so we ran over. Xiaozai didn't come for some reason." Lafite interjected from the side, "She should be with Veneto." After talking for a long time, the people in the office gradually dispersed. "I haven't seen the Admiral for a long time and I miss him very much." When I saw it, I suddenly realized that it was just that. Just like parents don't feel anything when they are around, but they feel lost when they are away from them. For ship girls, many people feel this way. You won't think about the Admiral all the time when you are around, but you can't leave him. Sugu had arrived at the governor's office, but actually not everyone in the governor's office knew about it at once. The dormitory building is fine. If you hear any noise, go downstairs and take a look. Of course, there are exceptions like Beizai, a die-hard otaku who doesn't care about anything, and the normal otaku Royal Oak, who is pretty much the same. On the other side of the complex, I don't know because it's too far away. Ruo kept saying that it could last until night. After thinking about it, Sugu got up. He wanted to see the ship girl who had returned to the town hall during his absence, and then also wanted to find Xiaozai. It is necessary to supplement the small house element. This is an essential nutrient. Once it is lacking, you will become trance-like. Suguxin wanted to hold Xiaozai and ravage him fiercely. Hunters were also prey, and someone wanted to add the admiral element. In the game, the initial favorability of each ship girl is 50 points, so it is not difficult to gain favorability. Just put him in the expedition team, and his good feelings will rise unconsciously. If you really like someone, just like you did with Xiaozai. I got the secretaryship immediately, and I got a good impression in a short time. Although someone was replaced as secretaryship soon afterwards, no ring was given. Despite holding many rings, the completely practical party still has hamster cancer. Accepting the ring only when you are full of favor is naturally considered part of the game. Here, even if you accept the ring without full favor, there are always some ship girls who are born with a love brain. Well, actually, you can't say that you will accept the ring even if you are not very favorable. After all, there is no data panel to check how favorable the person is. How do you know how much it is? And if you fall in love, it doesn't mean you will accept the ring. When it comes to love brains, The Fletcher-class destroyer USS Claxton is it. However, the cat-eared Lolita is too difficult to obtain. Countless admirals are looking for it, and they don't know how much resources they have to spend to build it. No, this is not a matter of spending any amount of resources. Resources are so difficult to obtain without luck or fate. Not to mention rare ship girls, any ship girl is not something you can get just by thinking about it. The Love Brain Claxton is too difficult, but the other Love Brain is much easier. The light cruiser Cologne is relatively easy to obtain whether it is salvage or construction. Of course, even if it is easy to obtain, it depends on the big data. It is not something that any admiral can get if he wants it. It is common for many admirals to have a garrison for many years and still only have destroyers for company. Otherwise, would you like some rabbit today? Where did the club come from with so many members and it has grown so big now? Anyway, in full view of everyone, a figure swooped over and hugged him before Sugu could see clearly. Being so enthusiastic, Sugu thought of many people. First of all, Wichita was excluded. Although this girl was bold and sweet-tempered, she didn't mind a warm hug. Mainly, I can't feel any softness on my back at all, which is obviously wrong. Cologne, be aware of the impact. She'll know just to pay attention to the impact. Someone among the onlookers said this, and Sugu finally understood the girl's identity. I heard about it in Missouri in the West, but unfortunately there is no convenient communication and I have never returned to the garrison, so there is no way to confirm it. It wasn't until I returned to the town hall that I realized that it was indeed my ship girl. Many people had returned to the town hall. Thinking about it, they just left and missed it perfectly. Sugu said, Cologne. I'm Cologne. It turns out that the way the admiral holds him is so comfortable. Feeling that he was being hugged tightly, Sugu really didn't know what to do with his expression. He should have been secretly happy, but in the end he was still shocked and helpless. Before taking the next step, I heard the voices of discussion around me again, and to a certain extent I understood Colon's character better. Admiral Commander Cologne, I saw her and Bazai sleeping on the Admiral's bed. Two unreliable people. No, they are different. Cologne went to the Admiral's bed, and Bazai just found a random place to avoid Bismarck. As long as there is a good place, he doesn't mind where he goes. Cologne wanted to run to the Admiral's room at night, but I found him. Someone interrupted. When did you find out? Half a month ago, in the middle of the night. I thought people didn't know, but I discovered it as soon as I opened the door. South Dakota, stop talking about Cologne. Seeing Colon hugging Sugu, Sarato cheered up, saying that she was her brother-in-law, so she wanted to pull Colon away. A natural voice sounded, Gia, what does it matter if I just give you a hug? The night is not yours anymore. Isn't that right, Admiral? After the warm hug, Colon finally let go of his arm around Sugu and stepped back. To be honest, it was impossible not to step back. Someone was pulling her back collar. The owner of the hand was the expressionless Bismarck. She couldn't see the German ship being so imageless, and her short silver-gray hair still stood up like a cat's ears. Only then did Sugu take a clear look at Cologne. The girl was slender and had long wavy brown hair. She was as flat as most light cruisers. Under Bismarck, Cologne was quite honest, but actually not too honest. The girl even put her hand to her lips and blew a kiss. Sugu saw another girl with short burgundy hair. Although her breasts were not satisfactory, her legs under the hot pants were slender and sexy. A girl with long silver hair reaching her hips is also nearby. She looks crazy and her style is similar to Hindenburg. Even though Hindenburg came to the garrison, no one was interested in her at all, and Bismarck remained the eldest sister of the German line. She crossed her arms and said, the three sisters of Königsberg, Karlsruhe, and Cologne, the Admiral remembers them. Even though we are no longer data, Sugu still subconsciously thought of games when we first met. Helena is enough for the light cruiser. In terms of combat effectiveness, Euxian is a slow ship and relies entirely on love. The strength is not enough, and the vertical painting is not good at it, so the treatment can be imagined. From a game point of view, I shouldn't be too kind to them, but they don't seem to mind their neglect, at least Cologne can't tell. Not only are there 3 sisters, we actually have a younger sister. Cologne looked at the blonde girl leaning against the window, holding a can of beer. Leipzig, clang clang clang. The boss of Leipzig was dissatisfied. I hope she is also your eldest sister. They seem to have a good relationship. That's how Sugu met the Königsberg sisters. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 635. Sugu met the combination of Xiao Zai and Veneto in the corridor outside the warehouse. The two were happily eating lollipops. Noticing the strange look Sugu looked at her, Veneto did not panic. She said calmly, "What are you looking at? There's nothing strange about it." Of course Sugu didn't know what Veneto had gone through, but he just thought to himself that in order to maintain the dignity of the eldest sister, he had never seen you eating candy. According to Kamichi's revelation, she had eaten candy, but she also ate it secretly in the room. Admiral. He caught the flying Xiao Zai and picked him up skillfully. After all, he didn't dare to go too deep into the candy issue. Consultant Su asked, "Where have you been?" "Just walking around." Veneto walked straight past Sugu and took out the lollipop in his mouth. "Where have they gone?" "Ask Andrea and the others." "They are going to the dormitory." The group of Italian little Lolita from Kamichi ran away with Lafayette and Fantasy. Andrea, Caio, even the powerful maid's reputation was no exception. They followed the counter-attack and left. Although they have returned to the governor's mansion, the accommodation problem has not been solved yet. They have to prepare their own rooms and at least put down their luggage first. Sugu also met the Königsberg sisters here, put down his luggage, and then decided to meet others. He continued, "I will take you over to find them." "No need," Xiao Zai introduced me to the town hall. Veneto waved his hand and walked away, staring at the lollipop in his hand, wanting to throw it away. After thinking about it for a long time, I finally put it in my mouth again. Why did I get sick after eating a lollipop? Sister-in-law Saratoga naturally followed Sugu. Looking at Veneto's back, she said, "Veneto has become so strange." Sugu originally thought Saratoga had something shocking to say, so he asked, "What's so strange?" Shaking his head, Saratoga said, "I don't know what to say." Holding Xiao Zai tightly in his arms, Consultant Su asked, "Xiao Zai, where did you go just now?" Xiao Zai misses the Admiral very much after not seeing him for such a long time. She leaned her head on Sugu's chest and said, "I took Veneto everywhere in the governor's mansion." "Where did you end up?" "Everywhere has gone." Zai didn't realize that much at all. He thought he had given a good introduction to the town's mansion, and even went to see the blackboard paintings that everyone had worked hard to draw. Andrea didn't even paint it, but painted Veneto, thinking that Veneto would probably be very happy. After all, he couldn't get anything out of Xiao Zai's mouth, so Saratoga said, "Ignore Veneto, let's go." "Brother-in-law, if you hold Xiao Zai, I won't be able to hold your hand. Then I won't save you." "Nothing is more important than the small house." Walking through the corridor, I saw Oscar sleeping lazily on a stone table in the shade of a tree by the roadside. "Go up the steps and then go upstairs from the stairs in the complex." There was no one in the training room, and the cotton pads were not put away. Apparently someone had used them just now. After all, in the past, if counterattack and Fletcher saw it, they would take the initiative to help clean it up. Walking towards the coffee shop, before entering the door, looking from the window, I suddenly realized that the place had changed a lot. It was originally a cafe converted from one room. It can be seen that one wall has been removed and now it occupies the space of 2 rooms. The decoration has also been redone, and it is obviously well done. It unexpectedly gives people a comfortable, relaxed, elegant and romantic feeling. There are maroon wooden floors, gorgeous rattan chairs, soft booth sofas, green potted plants, cultural bricks on the walls, and many oil paintings hung on them. Sugu recognized it. It was completely framed by Richelieu's work. There is no longer the melodious music of the record player, but there is more ethereal and beautiful sound of the piano. I turned my head and saw a unicorn in the corner of the cafe, wearing a white gauze skirt and always giving people a dreamy feeling, playing the harp. Compared to the rock music of Alaska and Guam, her music is a perfect match for the coffee shop. To be honest, her presence has raised the cafe to at least 2 levels. In short, if you sit inside with a book, enjoy coffee and music, the picture could not be more beautiful. Atlanta reported to my sister last time and asked for a lot of money. After thinking about it for a long time, I allocated a budget. I also painted half of the wall Saratoga was showing off, but it was not a great achievement. Xiaozai was also giggling, and she said, "I broke the wall." The ship girls have superhuman powers, and with them, Mr. Sugu feels that his worldview is gradually collapsing. They were supposed to knock on the wall with big hammers and small hammers, but as long as the power of the ship's equipment was used, the hard wall was completely like a block of tofu. There was no need for a construction team. They didn't even need to think too much about the neutral and live wires when connecting the wires. Well, cardiac arrest does not happen, but there is still pain and numbness. Compared to KTV, libraries, chessboard rooms, etc., coffee shops have always been the most popular in the Tuileries mansion. Speaking of which, the owner of the cafe, the light cruiser Atlanta, the cat-eared sister, a girl with little tiger teeth and small dimples, originally opened a bakery with her sisters. Mainly staffed by beautiful girls with cat ears, even if they fish for 3 days and dry the net for 2 days, they can open and close the store as they please, and the business is still guaranteed to be prosperous. Returning to the town hall, he opened a cafe and attracted a certain uniform sales clerk with his maid, bunny, and nurse uniforms, which naturally led to a boom in business. To be honest, this Atlanta girl has a pair of eyes that can keenly spot business opportunities. In the winter, the doors still need to be closed. Now that it is summer, the ceiling fans are not turned on, but the windows and doors are fully open. There was no fanfare or beating of gongs and drums, and it looked like a leadership inspection. But it's not like he quietly enters the village and doesn't want to shoot anyone. Entering the coffee shop through the back door, there was not even a creaking sound as the door opened. In fact, few people noticed that Sugu had come over. Near the window, York City and Bumblebee were sleeping on the sofa, sister and sister hugging each other. Northampton was sitting nearby drinking juice quietly. She actually saw Sugu and raised her palms to say hello. Immediately after trying to wake up York City and Bumblebee, Sugu waved his hand and signaled no need. Saratoga said amusedly, York City used to practice carrier-based aircraft at the dock every day, but now it has become more and more lazy. Sugu said, I probably found that no matter how hard I practice, I can't surpass you, so I don't pursue it anymore, so give up. These were words of praise, and Saratoga nodded proudly. The clerk Kent, who was hugging the ferocious tiger and wearing a maid outfit, also discovered Sugu's presence, and the girl exclaimed. Seeing that the admiral was back, Kent was full of excitement, but Sugu was quite unscrupulous. When Kent walked up to him, he stretched out his hand and snatched the big tiger from Kent's arms without any courtesy. When the big tiger left, Kent's whole temperament suddenly softened. Her expression became pitiful and she said, Admiral, you just came back and you bullied me. Big Tiger handed it to Xiaozai in his arms. Xiaozai hugged him tightly. Consultant Su said, why did I bully you? My big tiger. I didn't take it. In Xiaozai's hand. Xiaozai likes to cause trouble, so she gave the big tiger to Saratoga and said, Sister Jia, give it to Sister Yuxian, and we will have a dragon-tiger fight tonight. Saratoga understood and said casually, stew or stir-fry. Not daring to get angry, but barely daring to speak, Kent burst into tears and grabbed Sugu's sleeves. Admiral, give me back my big tiger. I have to say, bullying Kent is really fun. I really like Kent. I feel like I am about to become a primary school student. The more I like girls, the more I want to bully them. I came to the cafe specially, but the main purpose was to see Emden. Walking into the bar, across the aisle, you see Emden in the kitchen. She was not wearing a maid outfit like Kent, but instead had blonde hair in a ponytail, red-rimmed glasses, a checkered apron, and black stockings. In terms of figure, her breasts are not small and quite outstanding. At this time, he was holding a big bowl and an egg beater, humming and beating the egg liquid. Suddenly seeing Sugu, Emden let out a cry of surprise. After saying hello, Xiaozai was put down and she wandered around the kitchen, not knowing what she was doing. Poke the toaster and look at the oven. She is indeed a naughty child, she is just cute enough, but she will become a healer when necessary. Saratoga rarely came to the kitchen, staring curiously around her. Sugu was sitting on a chair. In his opinion, the layout of the kitchen had not changed at all. Here Sugu-san asked, what did Emden do before? Documents. Emden thought to himself that there was no need for paperwork in the garrison. Lexington is all done as a secretaryship, or else there is Washington. You can get close to the work of the admiral, and you can take your turn wherever you go. I have never served as a secretaryship before, and I am afraid I have no chance now. Sugu also thought of the portrait in the Emden game. He was still holding a folder in his hand, and his clothing looked more like a clerical job than others. He asked curiously, why did you come to work here? Saratoga spoke first. She said, Atlanta dragged her here. It is obvious that Emden has a weak character and is quite easy to bully. In comparison, Atlanta is also quite unruly. Once he opened a bakery, he left the job to his sisters Santiago and Juno. Up to now, it's like a pyramid scheme to attract people everywhere, and they even use Sugu's banner to attract people. Just like when Kent was forced into the coffee shop by her. Of course, even she was afraid of people. For example, London offered to work as a store clerk, but Atlanta sternly refused, and even went into hiding. Finally, she found a job as a teacher in London before she calmed down. Sugu said, who is easy to bully in Atlanta? Who is she bullying? Emden lowered her head and looked at the foam gradually rising in the bowl. She said, it would be great if I could help everyone. Originally it was just to meet and chat, but Sugu asked curiously, now are you making cakes? Egg tart, making egg tart liquid. Where are those chocolates? Sugu's eyes fell on the table next to him. He saw Xiaozai constantly reaching for the chocolates, putting them into his mouth and putting them into his pocket. Normally little Lolita is not allowed to enter the kitchen, so this rare opportunity cannot be missed. Emden said, that's Raider chocolate. Raider originally ran a candy store. Although she also did some mercenary work privately, she was best at making chocolate. Sugu remembered that he had collected a lot of chocolates on Valentine's Day, including chocolates from Saratoga. They claimed to have made them by themselves, but then they just melted the chocolates made by the Raiders and solidified them in molds. It was quite unscrupulous. After leaving the town hall, Emden must have been with the Königsberg sisters and Z driver. Yes. You must be taking care of everyone. Considering that the Königsberg sisters are definitely not caring characters, the destroyer doesn't have much hope. Taking care of so many people by one person, Sugu thought of the saying, women should be treated like men, and men should be treated like animals. After a pause, he felt suddenly sad, as if he had turned into an animal. It was obvious that Sugu had lost his mind. Emden replied, "There are also Z1 and Z16. Let's take care of everyone together." In the beginning, she was just a little Lolita, especially Z16, who could even be said to be a young girl. However, after transformation, she also turned into a girl. Thinking of this, Sugu was very concerned about the destroyer, and asked casually, "I wonder where the Z-destroyer is." The movements of his hands stopped and Emden said, "I don't know. They seem to be with Aunt Zeppelin. They worship Aunt Zeppelin." This is the voice of Xiaozai. Although she is a German ship girl, she prefers to play with Lafitte and Xianxiang than with the Z-driver. Sugu said to himself in confusion, QE Berlin actually has fans. He also knew that Zeppelin was very good as an instructor in the academy. Later, he came to the garrison as an instructor. Apart from his own connections and influence, he really didn't have much use in guidance. Sugu was good at handling various things, and Lexington was especially good at it. Bumblebee is not very interested in practicing carrier-based aircraft. York City wants to ask questions. Unless Zeppelin is at the dock, she will usually go to the most tolerant and gentle sister Lexington, or else Akagya. As for the little Lolita, with Xiaozai taking the lead, no one is afraid of her at all. After talking for a while, they finally got to know each other, and Sugu said, "Let's go see Z-driver." He stood up, but before leaving the kitchen, there was a sudden bang behind him. "I'm sorry," Emden's weak voice sounded. Whether intentional or not, the bowl Emden originally held in her hands fell to the ground, and she knelt on the ground with her hands on the ground, her expression aggrieved, which made people unbearable to look at her. Her drop-shaped breasts were already very plump, and due to the force of gravity, they were trembling, especially because some of the egg liquid was splashed on them. Historically, Emden was mainly used for training. The game partially respects historical facts, and her statistics are not outstanding. Her combat effectiveness is really not high and she cannot be transformed. She is really not a powerful ship girl, a Karen. Seeing such a scene at this time, Sugu found it difficult to forget. Every ship girl is not simple. Wanting to help, Emden had climbed to his feet. "Is everything okay?" "It's okay." Emden felt a little distracted when he saw the Admiral. After greeting Xiaozai and leaving the kitchen, Saratoga muttered, "She must have done it on purpose." Before he walked out of the coffee shop, Sugu looked to the side and his eyes were attracted. It was not the Z-driver there. "Oh, Ziwihi, and looking for the lost ship girl." Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 636. The Admiral is still in the garrison, and the ship girl is often reluctant to go out. After all, nothing makes people feel more at ease and happy than staying by the Admiral's side. Why is this happening? Out of curiosity, Sugu once asked many people, such as Lexington, Bismarck, etc., but he could not get any meaningful answers. I also talked about this topic with Missouri. It was mainly because she joined the garrison, so she must have some different opinions. I still remember that Missouri stretched out her slender fingers and tapped her lips, thinking thoughtfully, "My parents are here, so I won't travel far." At that time, I couldn't help but complain, "My parents are here, and if I don't travel far away, I will travel well." Hey, 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 am I your parent? I saw Missouri's face full of disgust. "I've seen a ghost." It doesn't mean I've seen a ghost. It just means seeing something extraordinary. If ghosts are common and dogs are mysterious, we will say we saw dogs again. If I have to say that the Admiral is here, no traveling far away, I was just making a metaphor. Oh, I suddenly remembered how ridiculous it would be to marry 10 of my own daughters. This metaphor of yours is killing me. It is difficult for evenly matched opponents, whether explicit or implicit, to win over each other. I asked honestly, Missouri, you have been in the garrison for a long time, do you still want to travel often? I wanted to take Lexington on a trip, but she didn't want to. I was so sad. Hey, that's my wife. I want to take Zai with me. That's my sister too. After all, I couldn't get any useful answers from Missouri, although she finally gave a serious answer. Anyway, I left the townhouse for a few months because of something. When I returned to the townhouse, I learned from Lexington that the Königsberg sisters, Emden and Force Z, had returned to the townhouse. In addition, we also learned that since they were out and did not have much interest in staying in the Tutelary mansion, Xianghe and Ziwehe left the Tutelary mansion in order to find sisters who belonged to the Tutelary mansion, and they gained a lot. Saratoga is reluctant. She prefers that everyone go find the Z driver, and she and Ziwehe will not deal with it. However, her objections were of no use. She watched helplessly as Sugu walked away with Zai, and in the end she could only stomp after him. The seat is by the window of the cafe. With short black hair and a neat short-sleeved skirt variant of the Kyoto uniform, Ziwehe sits on the wicker chair with his face tilted up. She heard the footsteps getting closer and closer, but she didn't pay attention and continued to talk. Then she felt who was sitting next to her, and she glanced sideways. First he saw Xiao Zai's smiling face, and then he saw Sugu. A smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth, but then it suddenly faded away. Oh, someone finally found out that he is back, it was full of sarcasm. Of course I know I'm back. Sugu hugged the pink-haired little Lolita tightly in his arms. Funny, after all, my cutest little house is in the guard's mansion, how can I give it up? Ruhi wanted to continue to mock a few more words, but when he heard such random remarks, he suddenly didn't know what to say. He shook his head and said, "Damn Lilikan. I also like the Admiral the most." Xiao Zai hugged Sugu's neck tightly. With a smile on his face and nuzzling Kotaku's face, Sugu looked at the person sitting opposite Ziwehe and saw the heavy cruiser Shokai under such circumstances. It's not a game, now you can change your hairstyle at will. However, unless he is like Prince Eugen, Sugu prefers Eugen to let his hair down on Christmas Day rather than twin tails. He mentioned it twice. Nowadays, Prince Eugen rarely wears twin tails. Generally speaking, most ship girls like hairstyles like those in the game. The unknown girl seemed to have a good relationship with Ziwehe. The girl with green hair and side ponytail had heard about the four sisters of the heavy cruiser Takayo class from Lexington, and Sugu was able to easily identify their identities. "Korakai, when did you come back?" Shokai also looked happy when she saw Sugu, but she was not as fond of him as Ziwehe-man. She replied, "It's been a long time since I came back." It was later than Hood and the others returned to the town hall. Ruhi patted her chest, not self-consciously. Her figure was obviously not outstanding. She said, "Thank me well, thanks to my sister and I traveling to many cities." Okay, thank you," Sugu responded perfunctorily. Ruhi complained, "Hey, this is so insincere. I'll reward you with a big red flower, or a paper medal will do." Ruhi angrily yelled, "Save some face." After all, Sugu was very grateful to Ruhi, but this was the usual way of communication between the two. Seeing this scene, Tokai said, "You two have such a good relationship." Saratoga stretched out her hand under the table and punched Sugu, then leaned into Sugu's ear and whispered, "I think so too. I think you didn't come here just for Shokai, but to flirt with Ziwehe." Ziwehe quickly explained, "Korakai, you are overthinking, are you?" In order to change the topic, Sugu asked curiously, "Korakai, where did Xianghe and Ruhi find you?" Shokai answered well, and Sugu said doubtfully, "It seems like it's not that far away from Crane City. I've been there before. It's such a pity." Ruhi winked, "If you are willing to put in the effort to find Veneto, you will definitely be able to find them easily. Much more than expected, no one is treated like this, and I am afraid of comparing myself to others in everything. Sugu told the story of what happened on the cruise ship, emphasizing that it was just a blessing to the soul. Otherwise, we would not have searched specifically for the land that once belonged to Italy without any information. This time it was completely a special situation. He also searched carefully for himself. He didn't have any information, so he was ready to give up and told about the accidental encounter. He said that although this time it was considered complete, he would never do such a thing again. After talking about his own affairs, Sugu asked Nihai again, "What have you been doing?" "The priest at the shrine, Master Shokai." Xiaozai blinked his big eyes and looked at Shokai. Sugu knew very well that historically the Japanese Navy had the habit of giving nicknames to ships. The other sister ships all had very normal names, but Master Shokai seemed weird. Even so, I don't believe that Chumi really went to the shrine to be a mage. Shrines should be on Myojis, and temples should be on Myojis. Admiral, do you still understand this? Understand a little bit. Unexpected. Immediately afterwards, Chumi finished telling the story of his and his sister's journey. Consultant Su, where is your sister? Atago-san is preparing a report in the dormitory, Kaosheng is in the cafeteria, Maya-san has gone somewhere, and I was assigned to come here specifically to investigate. Shokai looked around, from the ceiling to the floor to the window sill. Inspection. Chumi's expression was reluctant, and she said, "There is nothing easy to do when we return to the town hall. We have been to the coffee shop several times. Sister Kaosheng suddenly wants to open a shop, so we can only accompany her." "What store?" "Ramen, oden, everything. Night snack." "No late night snack." Sugu thought for a while, and it seemed that the governor's mansion really lacked such a place where everyone could eat all kinds of cooked food at any time. However, he still said with a smile, "You can find long siang for oden cooking." Shokai didn't understand, but Ziwihi was very familiar with Sugu's rhythm. She stretched out her hand and made a gesture above her head, saying, "Ryu Xiang Jingtai. What budget do you need?" "The town government has funds to support everyone in finding something to do, but the ship girl has many fantastic ideas, and the possibilities still need to be carefully reviewed. To be honest, when Atlanta was allowed to open a store, it was mainly because she had 3 reliable sisters. Otherwise, the girl with an out-of-touch personality would have refused the report and would not have thought of the scale it has today." Ziwihi said, "My admiral, it's useless to tell you. You can't make a decision or rubber stamp. No matter what, Lexington still needs to nod." "I am the admiral," Sugu said, a serious face. "But I found out." "No matter what, you will nod only if Lexington agrees. As long as Lexington objects, you will object immediately." Sugu explained, "One-sided. Whatever Lexington does makes sense, and I won my heart. I've never seen you refute her. Does everything she said make sense?" "Yes, everything she said makes sense." Sugu was about to cry, but Lexington was so capable that no matter what was left to her, it would be no problem. "I can't find fault with myself, which makes me seem to be a strict wife." Saratoga said proudly, "My sister is just that awesome." She looked at Ruhi again and said provocatively, "Your sister is crazy, your sister is unlucky." Ziwihi wanted to refute, but Lexington couldn't find anything wrong with him, and after a long time he uttered, "Jealous wife." Ziwihi continued, "It's no longer possible. The town hall is about to be controlled by Lexington. Admiral, if you ask me, there should be a democratic vote on the secretaryship and so on. If you return to democracy, you will most likely become a populist." Sugu touched Xiaozai's head, "Like Xiaozai and others, she will vote for whoever gives them chocolates." Xiaozai didn't understand so much, but she also knew it wasn't a good word, so she quickly said, "No. The little girl has been ruled out. South Dakota and Bazai, they are typical. They vote for whoever gives benefits. They are also excluded. Saratoga joined in the fun. This is also excluded, that is also excluded. What kind of democracy is this? Shokai sat quietly next to her with a pitiful expression. She found that she had been completely forgotten. She really shouldn't be with this group of favored battleships. She had no chance to show off and wanted to talk to the admiral. Laughing dumbly, Sugu interrupted the quarrel between Ruhi and Saratoga. Okay, stop talking. The quarrel stopped, and Ruhi suddenly asked curiously, speaking of which, it's very strange, why do everyone call the Kaohsiung sisters a family? Chumi complained, it feels like the name of a family is malicious, and I really don't want to accept it. Ziwikaku said, Aoba, Kinyagaza, Kako, and Furutaka are called one village and one new family. This is discrimination. Obviously Prince Eugene, New Orleans, and Quincy don't have this kind of trouble. Sugu thought to himself, I'm so cute, even if I'm dirty, it doesn't matter. He looked at Shokai again, thinking that there were 4 heavy cruisers in the Kaohsiung class. The chance of using the battleship and aircraft carrier formula to produce them was higher than the main product. They would also be produced through salvage. The shipping price was too high, and the illustrations were too magical. As a result, many people don't even want to look at them. Although it is still very beautiful after the modification, it was precisely because it could be modified that I re-raised and locked the ship until it was upgraded and modified. To be honest, unlike games, in this world, even destroyers require a lot of resources and hard work to build, and no one can say anything about it. In the case where most admirals are only accompanied by destroyers, light cruisers are worthy of joy, and battleships are worthy of hosting banquets. Some people may even hold a flowing banquet for 10 days. Although it is said that only the admiral comes to visit, and it is only for one meal at most, who is in the mood to watch you show off, but the attitude is there. Obtaining a heavy cruiser is already worthy of happiness. Thinking of Mu Chang, he spent a lot of time and resources, but so far he only has destroyers to accompany him. Thinking of Tian Hao, only Kaohsiung, as a ship girl, can still take charge. Although currently there is no need to move to Kaohsiung due to the relationship with the garrison next door, and he is in a state of only receiving salary and not working. To be honest, the parameters of the Kaohsiung class heavy cruiser are generally good, and it can be said to be the best among heavy cruisers. I don't know whether to say they have the same purpose, or it's just a coincidence of fate. Even here, they have such a bad name. The main reason is said to be that the governor of a garrison built all the Kaohsiung class ships in order to obtain the capital ship. I didn't dare to say anything in person, so I complained to my friends in private, but my friends were too loud. Just like that, a story came out. Although tired, he still managed to smile gently. Holding a cup of tea, looking around. A bright beam of light shines in from the skylight of the workshop, and light dust particles dance in the sunlight. Picked up from the sea, the rusty steel was covered with a green oilcloth and placed next to it. After working hard for so long, I finally saved up enough resources and can start building. Xiang He, who wanted Lexington but couldn't do it, was able to accept it. He was so excited that he almost melted thinking about the bright future. I reached out and touched the steel, feeling the history in the steel. I didn't know how long it took to wake up. Seeing the figure appearing in the steel ruins, he succeeded, and his heart rose in his throat. Looking at the watch again, I suddenly found that the hour hand only moved through one space. It felt like someone had poured cold water on me, and my heart felt cold. The girl in the ruins asked, "These resources?" "Hello." "Well, yes, the resources here are the conditions for your awakening." "Admiral, you look tired." Look at the girl, staring at the shiny black calfskin boots on the girl's feet. "Don't worry, this effort is nothing, this fatigue and suffering is nothing." "Yes, don't worry, my Shokai. Tears almost flowed down my face, I felt really tired. Suddenly there was a creaking sound, the door of the workshop was pushed open, and 3 girls walked in. They have long purple hair, black ponytails, and brown twin ponytails respectively. They stand neatly together. "Hey, Admiral, I just told you that it must be our sisters who wake up this time. The time is just right." "Yes, I knew it was you sisters." The girl with long purple hair waved her hand. "Tokai, come here quickly and stand together. No matter in the past or now, we are sisters." The 4 girls stood neatly in a row. "Admiral, look, the most important thing for a family is to be neat. Admiral, are you hungry?" The tears suddenly couldn't stop, no matter how hard I wiped them with my hands, they couldn't be wiped away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 637. Akagi put down the chopsticks in his hands and had already finished the chajak rice in the bowl. She looked at the screen door of the kitchen, remembering the figures of Yuxian leaving with Chungqing, Ningai, and Pinghai just now, and her eyes wandered around the kitchen. Shokaku wore an apron and stood next to the frying pan, frying croquettes. Kaga sat casually on a chair and drank sake. Atago and Takayo were pointing at a report, and Maya stood beside him. There is no one else here except the Japanese ship. She has already thought of the reason why Yuxian left. Maya noticed something strange about Akagi and asked curiously, "What is Sister Akagi thinking?" "Once you are a eldest sister, you will always be a eldest sister." Even with the attitude of a girl, Akagi enjoying the delicious food cannot be called Akagi, it can only be said that she is well fed, and it is really not dignified. She is still an older sister. I didn't want to say it at first, thinking that it would stir up trouble and damage the harmony of the guardhouse, but after thinking about it, I wasn't so sensitive, so Akagi still spoke. "Yuxian doesn't seem to like us, and when she saw us in the cafeteria, she took people away." Maya said, "It's normal for the fishery administration ship to hate us. Judging from the history of warships, we are still enemies." Drawing circles on the dining table with her fingers, she continued, "She manages the canteen. Every time we come here, we see her with a stern face. Well, let's open a shop to compete with her." Kagami drank all the sake in her hand, and she said, "In the words of the Admiral, Yuxian manages the canteen of the governor's mansion, and he is the boss of a state-owned enterprise. With an administrative establishment, when will it be upgraded? It will become a secretary ship. When you open a store, it's just a private enterprise, so don't put money on your face and talk about competition with state-owned enterprises. What is this called, porcelain Yuxian?" Maya snorted softly, "I hate her. It's rare. The food made by Yuxian is so delicious." The voice came from Akagi, and she showed a resentful expression. "Counterattack, every time I practice cooking, I call myself Yuxian. Yuxian's skills are good. Even so, Wu is still practicing hard every day. She also develops new dishes from time to time. There are always many tasters every time, and she will participate." Maya was discouraged by Sister Akagi's unruly behavior and wanted to lecture her. Akagi spoke first. "To be honest, we occupied the kitchen utensils, and even the dining table. Obviously Yuxian belongs to the cafeteria. The manager didn't kick us out." She smiled and nodded, which was enough. Maya, who still knows a little bit about history, said, "Historically, the light cruiser Yatsen was sunk and then salvaged. It was renamed the training ship Adota. She is our teammate and shouldn't be so contradictory to us." Sheik Hung said, "You beat someone up, then forcibly took him home to work as a maid. After many years, he was defeated, and you had no choice but to put the person back. How do you expect others to be grateful? Kaga showed a disdainful expression. The history of battleships in the past was completely her nightmare. It was too bad. She said, the Admiral's theory, the ship girl saw the past history and grew up. Yuxian was still a girl before, but she became mature after growing up. Oh, why do you think so? After witnessing the destruction of the country and the family, everyone will grow up quickly, and then you, me, and everyone are all bad people. Maya muttered, that was in the past, that was a battleship, it has nothing to do with us. Now we have not done anything bad to Yuxian. After all, everyone will be affected by the history and memory of steel. Look at Bismarck and Hood, what do they look like? Kaga thought of the dignified and elegant Hood, who was kind to everyone, but when he saw Bismarck, he always hummed. Thoughtfully, Maya said, Bismarck and Hood are very good, they love each other and kill each other. It's enough to say hello with a smile and a nod. Why don't we expect to be intimate with you? It seems to be the same truth. Maya thought for a while and waved her hand. Ching ching, I'd better forget it. It's too embarrassing. It's better like this. If you don't bother me, I won't bother you. They had been busy and it was finally over. Xianghe used chopsticks to take out the croquettes from the oil pan. She asked, does any of you want it? I want it. Needless to say, Akage couldn't wait any longer. Suddenly thinking of something, Maya looked at Akage and asked curiously, by the way, Akage has turned into a wedding ship, and he and the Admiral are flirting with each other every day. Kagami said, I saw it. The Admiral was feeding Akage spoonfuls of food with affectionate expressions on his face, and he stuffed my mouth full of dog food. Akage explained, he's not full of affection. He feeds me because he feels it's fun. And Kaga, don't be jealous. I gave the ring you gave me back to the Admiral and asked him to give it to you. You just wait. Jia, he said indifferently, what kind of ring? I don't need it. He noticed that Kaga was looking at him with a straight face, but Akage was not afraid at all, don't be shy. Kagami deflected the fire and said, instead of giving me the ring, I think it's better to give Ziwakaku the ring first. Xianghe is a 100% good sister, but she worries, Ruhi is too shy easily. Ziwahi is shy, Kaga didn't believe it. She had seen him many times. Ziwahi took the initiative to approach the Admiral, and the two had a happy chat. Shokaku replied, Ziwakaku is shy in some ways. Kaga comforted Xianghe, actually, it doesn't matter whether you get the ring or not. Ziwahi and the Admiral have such a good relationship, few people can compare to it. Akage stretched out her left hand. She was not shy at all and had a generous personality. She asked for the ring directly. She also knows the character of our admirals very well. If you ask for anything, he will give it to you. If you don't mention it, he will just pretend he doesn't know. In fact, he is quite shy. She showed a funny expression, Kaga, Xianghe, and Ziwahi, the three of them are just right. In the words of Saratoga, they are a bunch of losers. I have eaten up the Admiral, and you are still comforting yourself. Are you happy? Xianghe showed a helpless expression, and Kaga was already planning to take action, saying, in Saratoga's words, you are a vixen. Akage said indifferently, there are so many vixens in Saratoga's mouth, how many of them got the ring? Kaga glanced at Akage and said disdainfully, he was hung up and beaten by Lexington. Lexington is too powerful to do anything and has given up, Akage retorts, who isn't? The reputation has returned to the garrison, and Lexington has an opponent. Kaohsiung and Atago finally read the report and found that there was no problem. They just needed to hand it over to Lexington. Hearing the conversation here, Kaohsiung stood up and said, Sister Akage, Sister Kaga, I called you over. I hope you can try my cooking skills and give me some advice. What have you been talking about? What about chajak rice, sample? Very good. Akage could still tell the difference. Cao Sheng raised his eyebrows. How about Bai Yuxian? Shi Kung said, obviously I can rely on my face to make a living, but I rely on my cooking skills. Well, I'm not even wearing clothes, it's not even close. Haha, don't ask me, I'm not a gourmet. There's nothing good or bad about eating peonies, as long as it's not London, that's enough. Salt and pepper ice cream, grilled bananas, jelly instant noodles, boiled durian. Even though she could easily eliminate the food cooked by the counter-attack, she was still unable to face London and was defeated steadily by London's attacks. There is no way, those dark dishes are really unpalatable. Cao Sheng put the report away. What else do you want to say about opening a store? Akagi asked, is it only Japanese food? As long as it's a famous dish, I can make it. As a foodie, I like to hug Sugu at night and discuss delicious food. After thinking about it carefully, I originally wanted to ask whether the boy's egg could be used, but I felt sick. If you want to talk about Sanzer, it doesn't feel like a serious delicacy. For Sugu, it was completely in the category of dark cuisine, but for Akage, it was just an interesting dish. Akage said, sheep tripe stuffed with meat. It should be called haggis. It seems to empty the stomach of the sheep and then chop the internal organs, the heart, liver, kidneys, lungs, intestines. Anyway, there are all kinds of seasonings. Stuff them and tie the two sides together, then boil them in water for a few hours until they swell. Cao Sheng had never heard of it, so she asked curiously, where is the food? Scottish food. Kagami said, please, Akage, just pick on me. We are discussing food. Atago thought about it seriously, and she hit the nail on the head. There is a problem. Everyone usually eats in the cafeteria. If we open a store, we should focus on snacks and late-night snacks, not big meals. As for late-night snacks, Cao Sheng-sama, your cooking skills are really not good. Cao Sheng stretched out her hand to press her forehead. She was self-aware and did not have a lot of confidence in her cooking skills like London, so she would not listen to anyone. She understands her shortcomings, and her cooking skills are absolutely passable during the day, but she fails at night, and her late-night snacks turn into dark dishes. Day and night change, and my mood changes accordingly. It seems that the food prepared at night does not taste very good. In fact, I feel pretty good. This problem must be solved, Atago said with a serious face. Cao Sheng is not discouraged. We can only continue to work hard and strive to cook delicious food day or night. Atago nodded. This is the only way, then I have to continue to ask Shumi. Meanwhile, this is in a coffee shop. It makes people feel distressed. Xiao Zai is not a quiet character, he just ran away after being coquettish in his arms. If you are in a large coffee shop, you can take a look here and hang out there. Sneaking away York's snacks, or pointing out Suzue's secret cheating in the card game. Immediately afterwards, she was held in Suzue's arms and her face was rubbed. Finally, she broke away and began to complain about pornographic women. When someone curiously asked her why she came here, after all, she usually came to the coffee shop with many little Lolita, she pointed to Sugu. It wasn't long after I arrived at the coffee shop. Due to the small house, even if there was no small house, everyone could see something was wrong when they looked around. Anyway, many people came over to say hello. Of course, there were also people who didn't care, such as York City and Bumblebee. They were woken up and sat up in a daze when they saw Sugu, but they chose to continue falling asleep. Talk to Princeton here, enjoy Blucher's hug, enjoy Wichita's facial cleanser, and look at Saratoga's cold eyes. Pulling Helena's hand, she looked up and saw the trembling amount of breast milk. She was still worried about Emden at first, but now she doesn't know Emden at all. Originally, there were only 2 wicker chairs by the window. Sugu and Saratoga moved a wicker chair over and sat there. The four of them could barely sit at the small round table. If there were more people squeezing in, it would seem a bit crowded. In order to make room, Shumi moved to the window, and even put his arms completely on the window sill. It wasn't until everyone left, and in fact it was because there was no room for them to sit here, that everyone left. At this time, Shumi's face suddenly turned pale. "Consultant Su, what's wrong with you?" Shumi replied, "It feels like something bad is going to happen." "What's the matter?" Shokai shook his head, "I don't know. If you can't find the reason, you can only give up." While drinking the juice, Sugu remembered that Shokai originally came here for inspection. "Since you want to open a restaurant, there is one thing you can't get around. No matter how good Kaohsiung's cooking skills are, you can't just open a restaurant for cats and dogs. For example, if you want to open a store in London, as long as it involves eating, you don't have to look at it at all. You can't hold out any hope, you just have to refuse. Korakai, speaking of which, you are going to open a store. How is Kaohsiung's craftsmanship? In the garrison, when it comes to cooking skills, Lexington and reputation really don't rank high. Chongqing's level is not bad, but it has not made a debut. Sugu first recommends Yuxian. Although everyone said that Fuzu, the world champion, was also an equal opponent for Yuxian, for him, Fuzu inherently lacked a lot of emotional bonus points. He didn't know much about Kaohsiung in the game, but Sugu knew about it when he came here to become an admiral. Girls who have inherited the same battleship soul are basically good at similar things. Thinking about it carefully, I heard Tian Hao say before that his Kaohsiung cooking skills were astonishing. Now he is practicing his cooking skills every day, but he has not made much progress, which makes him suffer as a guinea pig. Even though I know that every Kaohsiung is different, and that before and after the transformation are not the same, I still look at it with admiration after leaving for 3 days, but I still don't have much confidence in Kaohsiung. Before Chumi could speak, Ziwei said, "Kaohsiung's craftsmanship is very good, it's just not as good as my sister Xianghe, but it's much better than your Lexington." Saratoga was not happy, but she had to admit her sister Lexington's craftsmanship. Of course it was good, but as an American ship there was really no way to compare with Shokaku. After finally recovering, Shumi was unhappy after hearing everyone's words. She said, "Kaohsiung-san's cooking skills are definitely better than Xianghe's." Saratoga clapped her hands and clearly provoked discord, "Let's fight. Whoever wins will have a better sister." Xiaozai returned to Sugu. She was also the one who was worried about the world being in chaos. She said, "Be sure to calm down the inside before going outside." Sugu patted Xiaozai's head and said, "Where did you learn this?" Ziwikaku and Chumi looked at each other. They had a conflict among the people. Saratoga was a class enemy, so they still had to face the outside world in unison. They said in unison, "Lexington is the worst anyway." Saratoga had nothing to say, and the civil war suddenly began. Ruhi said, "Kaohsiung's craftsmanship is very good during the day, but it doesn't work at night." Sugu curiously asked, "Why can't anyone do the law? Kaohsiung makes supper for Niahai every night. Ask Niahai if she has any memories of every night. Even if the sister controls, no, mom's baby, Shokai should say sister's baby. Listen to your sister, do whatever she says, and do whatever you want for her." However, when she mentioned late night snacks, her face turned pale. "I'm worried about why I have to eat everything made by Kaohsiung's sister, even though I can go to Atago's sister and Maya's sister, but I still think that being a little girl has no human rights." Ruhi said, "Food during the day, poison at night." So exaggerated, Sugu didn't believe it. "It's just that powerful, otherwise you can try it." To be on the safe side, Sugu said, "Let's look for York City and Hindenburg to be the vanguard first." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 638. The croquettes had also been wiped out, and Akage leaned back in his chair contentedly. There were still food residues in the corner of her mouth, so she stuck out her tongue and licked it. The matters related to opening the store were almost discussed. Kage saw Akage's appearance next to her. She raised her head and raised her wine glass and said with a smile, "Akage, you are doing well. So don't always put on airs. Men are more I like to be more seductive." "How do you say that? You can go to the hall, go to the kitchen, enter the bedroom, and beat the gangsters." Maya knocked on the table and said, "Be like a lady outside, be like a housewife at home, and be like a slut in bed." Kage said, "She's almost a lady. Akage is like a classic lady. I can't do it as a housewife, so I gave up. As a slut, look at the swimsuits of Helena and the Prince of Wales, and learn to play a little bit occasionally. By the way, Blucher's swimsuit is also very good." Atago laughed, "Veneto's swimsuit." Everyone also laughed. After Akage finished laughing, she stared at Kage with her side face raised and asked, "What does it mean to be able to play? Kage is just a drunkard. How could she know so much?" Maya spoke, "Lick your lips with your tongue, it's full of teasing. Sister Akage, you should learn to wear underwear occasionally, instead of bandages, that's weird, okay? Women adjust in the eyes of men, shoulder straps are like taking off clothes. The effect of brushing hair is also very good, making the hair exude a charming fragrance, look at Missouri. Otherwise, stretching can naturally show the lines of the body." Her expression was calm at first, as if she was talking about something ordinary. After Maya finished speaking, she noticed that everyone was looking at her. She quickly explained, "Ha, don't look at me like that. I just heard what Suzuya said." If Maya figured it out by herself, then her painting style would have changed drastically. "The highest level is good at this," Suzuya said, "this is right." Akage showed no expression. She said, "What's the use of learning how to play?" After drinking a lot of wine, Kagami's face was slightly red, and she said, "Ruhi is not up to expectations. In our Japanese family, Akage is the only one who is the wedding hero. You must work harder and blow the admiral's pillow. Just like this is the report from Kaohsiung, we can't pin our hopes on Lexington." Sheik Hung said, "The admiral hasn't come back yet. I don't know when he will come back." 2. Atago spoke up rarely and joined in the fun, "You haven't come back yet, Sister Akage, you have to practice more." Kaohsiung said, "Don't embarrass Sheik Hung. They are all girls, and they are actually dirty." Kage mused, "Think about it, in our Japanese system. Hinata and Ise don't think about it, they are too rustic. The football king Fuzu has strong capital, but he doesn't work hard, and so does Ziwahi. Same. The superior is good, but the admiral doesn't seem to have any thoughts about them. As expected, Mutsu is the best, but I don't know where this coquettish hoof has gone." Akage exposed the fox ears in his ship uniform and said generously, "It's not about Mutsu, Kage, you have to work harder. It's not about me. You can't even think of the tricks I play." Oh. When the news broke, everyone was immediately curious. Even the gentle Xianghe pricked up his ears. Kage asked, "What tricks did you and the admiral play?" Still a little measured, Akage said nothing, "You will know when you get the ring." Kage wanted to ask again, but Akage looked resentful, "Is the Odin cooked yet?" Kaohsiung looked back at Gentai and said, "It's almost done, but if you don't say anything, Sheik Hung, I won't let you eat." With no other choice, Akage was about to speak, but a squeaking sound interrupted her. The screen door of the kitchen was pushed open. Everyone looked over and saw that Long Xiang had walked in. "We smelled the fragrance outside, but you didn't call us." Even though he knew that Long Xiang liked Odin, Cao Sheng was completely unwilling to call this little loli because she talked too much. I can't wait to eat, and I obviously don't know anything, but I like to give advice on the side, so I don't deserve to be beaten. No one greeted her, and Long Xiang was not polite and walked to the edge of the platform alone. She went to get a bowl first, and then picked up a big spoon to scoop out a lot of eggs, radishes, potatoes, kelp knots, and meatballs. My favorite is Odin. Before she could move, a shadow covered her, and a hand reached down and snatched the bowl from her hand. Unlike other little Lolita, Long Xiang came from Senior Su. She pursed her lips and said angrily, "Gagabi, give it back to us." The expression on Jaga's face became fierce, and he said every word, "Jagabe. Call me sister. Don't bark," Long Xiang ordered forcefully. Kaga handed the bowl to Akagi and said, "Since Ryu Xiang doesn't scream, you will eat it, Akagi." Okay, Akagi went to get the bowl without hesitation. Maya said, "Long Xiang, you are quite powerful. You came running over just after I got acquainted with you. We had no idea you were actually eating Odin behind my back. I came here to tell you something important." Long Xiang bulged his eyes and looked at Kaga. "If you don't return our Odin to us, I won't tell you." Long Xiang's face was full of momentum and he was completely unwilling to admit defeat. After thinking about it, "Jia," he said, "then I will return it to you. If the information is not important, I will kill you." "Akagi, give it back to her." "I won't pay it back." This was Akagi's voice, and she saw that the bowl Jaga handed her just now was empty. Looking at Akagi's innocent expression and hamster-like bulging cheeks, Kaga became discouraged. "I was just joking about Long Xiang, but you actually finished eating," she said helplessly. "Long Xiang, you can refill it yourself." "How can Long Xiang be so talkative?" she said. "No, I want our Odin. If you eat our Odin, I won't talk about it." As soon as she finished speaking, Atago reached out and put his hand on her head, leaned down and leaned into the little loli's ear and said sullenly, "Don't push yourself too far. So fierce, and those who know the current affairs are heroes." After thinking for a second, Long Xiang decided to forgive these people. After all, we are all Japanese ship girls and we still need to unite. "Ryak Xiang, here you go, be careful not to burn it." Xiang, he has a good temper. In fact, she filled another bowl when she saw Akagi eating Ryak Xiang's Odin. Long Xiang rubbed his hands and took the Odin, and happily ate a fish ball. Kagami asked, "It's time to talk now, what's the matter?" "The Admiral is back." Long Xiang didn't even raise his head. Kagami said calmly, "It's a small matter, where is he?" "We don't know where they went. Chumi is a poor man, and he listens to his sister's words, and refuses to accept the ring without her sister's consent. If my sister is nice, I will be fine with it, but I will be tricked by my sister. In a sense, I will bear the responsibility for the victim." After hearing the story told by Ziwahi, I lose a memory every day. Selective forgetting of painful memories is said to be a protective mechanism to prevent people from completely collapsing. It is really pitiful. Of course, due to her lack of memory, she didn't think it was such a big deal. Saratoga is a shameful person. After hearing that Sugu was going to visit Kaohsiung, she decided not to accompany him. In addition to not having much favorable impression of Japanese ships, there are actually reasons. In the past, it would have been awkward if I didn't know who to talk to except my brother-in-law. It's just that she left as soon as she left. It wasn't a big deal, she had to take Zai away. "Jia, return the small house to me." "No, let's go see Z driver." "Forget it, just take it away." However, Sugu still decided to meet Kaohsiung. Saratoga carried Xiao Zai away like a big doll. Sugu and the others were walking in the corridor. Toria said, "Sister Kaohsiung is in the cafeteria. If I see you, sister will definitely be very happy." Consultant Su, Is she practicing her cooking skills in the cafeteria? Shokai nodded, yes. Sugu said, Akage must be here too. I have no idea. Akage will accompany me to practice my cooking skills when I fight back. I can't not go to Kaohsiung to practice my cooking skills. Ziwi said, to practice cooking in London, Akage won't go there. The cuisine that counterattacks is still in the category of food. London's cuisine is offensive. After walking through the corridor, Sugu said, speaking of which, I know a Kaohsiung, and her craftsmanship is not very good. Chumi's face was full of pride, as if she had done something extraordinary. She said, my sister is not like Fuzu, Yuxian, and Xianghe, who have cooking skills for nothing. My sister's cooking skills are so good, all because of her hard work study. Kanyang's abilities come naturally, but also require a lot of hard work. It sounds like Kaohsiung is a hard-working player. Ruhi retorted, Kaohsiung's high academic talent is still obtained for free. In terms of hard work, look at counterattack and London. They are still at this level now. Chumi wanted to refute, but he couldn't think of a reason at all, so he could only say, Ziwikaku, you are so annoying, don't try to pinch your personality. Sugu said, I think so too. The garrison is really not big, so it doesn't take much time to walk to the cafeteria. Entering the kitchen, Sugu first saw Akage, who was eating something with a happy face. Then I saw Kaga was there, Xianghe was also there, and the little Lolita Longxiang was also there, squatting on a chair and eating with gusto. Finally, there are 3 people who I didn't know beforehand, but they can guess their identities. From the perspective of the game, even if the family has reformed, Sugu is still very disdainful, and many deep-rooted prejudices are at work. In fact, it is no longer a game. Even the devilish Anthony, Blaine, and Cassin Yang can also be very cute little Lolita. I saw the Kaohsiung in the neighboring town's garrison, and she was also a complete black-haired beauty. When I first found Firefly, I met 2 Atticus, both of whom were beautiful women. Became an admiral and visited many garrison offices. The probability of a family getting it is not low, and they have seen quite a few. Everyone has different looks and temperaments, but they never disappoint. Shokai can also be called a girl, and Kaohsiung is much taller than her younger sister. She was dressed with black hair tied into a ponytail, a t-shirt, and jeans, but she also wore an apron. I originally thought that she had the temperament of a married woman and was good at cooking after all. Looking at her this way, she looks like a heroic lady. Atago was leaning against the window, with his hands folded across his chest, and his slender legs in white stockings were the most conspicuous. She has long purple hair and flat bangs. She has a Mingmingji hairstyle, which does not look like Yamato Nade's Hiko. She is mature and capable. As for Maya, she has blonde hair with twin ponytails and is sitting on the kitchen table used to place dishes. She also wore white stockings, with her legs crossed. At this time, one hand was placed flat on his legs, and the other hand was supporting his chin with the back of his hand. The eyes he looked over were full of contempt, as if he was looking at an insect. Sugu is not an S, so points will be deducted. Taking a deep breath, before saying hello, Sugu wanted to say something when seeing such unique and beautiful people, I will smash the head of anyone who dares to oppose the family. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 639. Just when they came to the kitchen, Akage took Sugu's hand and said, Admiral, let me tell you, Kaga just. Before Akage could finish speaking, Kaga, who was sitting casually regardless of his image, was holding the wine glass, drank all the wine, and threw it towards Akage's head. Akage, I tell you, shut up. Akage skillfully dodged it, but she didn't keep her image to the familiar Kaga and turned into a playful smile. She was reluctant to pick up a kelp knot with her chopsticks and gave it to Sugu, saying, Admiral, let me feed you. No. Sugu waved his hand. He had already seen the pained expression on Shishin's face. Besides, he was also the type of person who wanted to have sex and had no interest in kelp knots or anything like that. Akage's smiling face, we are a loving couple. Let's show it to them, but they have been doubting us. What? Sugu felt confused, but Shikung had already mentioned this, so he did not refuse. Okay. Akage held the kelp knot in front of Sugu's mouth and said, they said we didn't play enough tricks. Sugu was coughing, and he was also coughing desperately next to him. Consultant Su, I met Nihai in the cafe and heard that Kaohsiung is here. I didn't expect you to be here too. What are you discussing? Once the vixen Akage was let go, she was still very powerful. She laughed, a group of girls, spring is here, everything revives. Something flew over again, and this time Akage caught it well, spreading his hands and his eyes shining. I just left what I haven't eaten yet, so I'll give it to you, Kage said. Akage nodded with satisfaction. Sugu saw from the side and had some doubts that this was Akage's purpose from the beginning. However, he only said half of the words, which made people feel itchy. However, he looked at the atmosphere around him and honestly didn't ask. Ruhi picked up several meatballs from Long Xiang's bowl with chopsticks, and the little loli had already shouted out. Ruhi, what are you doing? I'm just eating a few of your meatballs, so anxious. I only have a few. Don't be so stingy. The more Long Xiang made trouble, the more Ruhi laughed. Chumi stood beside his sisters and said proudly, Sister Kaohsiung, I brought the Admiral here. Kaohsiung stretched out his hand to stroke his sister's hair, his face was full of doting, it was hard to tell that he would actually ask his sister to eat dark food, and he really knew people but didn't know what he meant. Chewing the kelp knot, Sugu looked at these people. To be honest, I don't know much about the family in the game. Among the heavy cruisers, I only love Quincy, Prince Eugen, and Wichita. Only these three have reached the full level. Speaking of a family, seeing the vertical painting after the transformation is nothing more than practicing it and not caring about it anymore after the transformation. After all, there is no need for a heavy cruiser for activities before leaving. I don't know a few people's personalities at all, actually, I can't say I don't know. You can roughly infer your personality from your dress, sitting posture, and temperament. I also learned about it while studying in the academy, but of course it is for reference only. After all, different experiences make everyone have different personalities. Thinking back to when I found the fireflies and met two Atago, the two people have different personalities. Also, I don't know if there are any changes in his personality after the transformation. But I came here just for a casual acquaintance, and didn't have much thought. Even though I, as an admiral, have not seen each other for so long, it is probably difficult to make everyone become familiar with each other all of a sudden. Wait until evening and ask Akage what your personality is and what your preferences are. That's not right. When I returned to the garrison today, it goes without saying that I must have been occupied by Lexington, who claims to be a great lady. In fact, I wanted to see the famous bunny girl costume. I have been looking forward to it for a long time, and I have not forgotten it even now. Kaohsiung took off her apron and she looked at Sugu. That was his own admiral, whom he finally saw again after many years. Although I was called family in the past, which was quite a contemptuous term and made me angry, but I have forgotten it now. Considering that many people in the garrison did not even have a chance to attack, such as the top class of the heavy cruiser, I really had nothing to complain about. To be honest, when she saw Sugu, she didn't know what to say. I didn't know much about the admiral in the past. I only remembered his appearance and preferences. Other than that, I didn't have any other memories. It felt like a symbol. When we met, I suddenly felt a little confused. Seeing that Long Xiang had finished eating the oden, he wanted to put it in, but there was not much left in the pot. Cao Sheng stretched out his hand and hit Long Xiang on the head, making the little lowly glare angrily. She looked at Sugu and asked, "Admiral, would you like some?" Sugu smiled, "I heard from Niao Hai that you are good at cooking." In the end, Xiang He filled the bowl and placed it in front of Sugu. When Ruhi saw this, she started shouting, "Sister, there's still mine. There is none left." Eccentric. Ruhi sat down next to Sugu without hesitation. "You don't mind coming together?" Suddenly noticing a few people staring at her, Ruhi felt a little strange. She said dissatisfiedly, "Since the beginning, you have been looking at me. What are you looking at?" "I have turned my back." Maya nodded thoughtfully, thinking that, not counting nights, Ziwahi would probably be with the Admiral more than Akagya. This casual energy is already intimate. She said duplicity, "It's nothing." Long Xiang was also jealous beside him, but Sugu was not prepared to give this little lowly a hug, and he was usually too fierce to hug her. "We've already eaten." Long Xiang pretended to be disdainful. "It tastes good," Sugu agreed. Maya started to sit like a queen, but now she stopped sitting and stood at the dining table. The short dialogue in the game is to highlight her character. When we actually meet her, she will not talk about common people, bugs, and slaves. She said, "What a perfunctory answer, you are not even wearing clothes." Shi Kung showed an innocent expression next to him, paused, and Sugu said cautiously, "None of you have drugged you." Ruhi said, "Long Xiang." The little lowly glanced at Ruhi with dissatisfaction, and after seeing the sharp look in his eyes, she finally said, "Simmer slowly over slow fire. The rich aroma of the meatballs will come out, and the hot soup will wrap you up." Sugu was shocked and asked, "Long Xiang, where did you learn this?" "The little house." "Hey, we are not a gourmet show." Sugu remembered that he had gone to another place to study in junior high school. After a long time, it was difficult to have anything to talk about when he met his good friends from elementary school again. After thinking about it, remaining silent was not an option. He asked casually, "How is life in the governor's mansion?" Cao Sheng replied, "It's pretty good. It's better than what we had before. Speaking of which, the beach outside the town hall is very beautiful. Have you visited it? Seen it already?" There was no nutritious conversation. Sugu continued to ask, "Why did you think of opening a store?" Maya said, "Didn't you always say that I would give you something to eat?" Sugu paused for a moment. No matter who said it, he felt that this sentence was a little dirty. "Rodney is going to be an English teacher." Cao Sheng said, "Just find something to do." Looking around, Advisor Su asked, "What kind of layout are you going to make?" "I asked Chumi to go to the cafe specifically to inspect and learn from it." After retrieving the scriptures and semen, Sugu felt a little dirty again. Just looking at the people around them, there is nothing strange about them. In the final analysis, they are still dirty. Sure enough, you should talk to Bazai less in the future. Anyway, just rely on Bazai. Sugu made some suggestions and said, "There are not many people in the town guard mansion, so the cafe is mainly used as a leisure place. You can read, sleep, and play board games and chess and cards. The governor's mansion already has a canteen. After eating in the canteen, you probably won't be interested in eating anything else. We should still sell some snacks like Odin. I think it's better to specialize in barbecue and hot pot. It can let everyone eat slowly. Chatting slowly. When it comes to layout and other things, compared to a coffee shop, we have to consider the issue of oil fumes. But when it comes to daily food alone, there is no oil fumes." Maya said, "You are quite powerful." Sugu was a little proud. "If I don't become an admiral, I think it's okay for me to go into business. How to do market research, consider the flow of people, the audience, and the consumption power. Where there are many workers, fast food, or something like that, women, children, and students are the best money to make. Maya laughed, you still boasted? That's it, with some topic as a starting point, we quickly become familiar with each other. Speaking of opening a store, Sugu also talked about his own affairs outside, such as how to successfully fish out Hindenburg and Kaio. Although the real situation did not have much to do with him, and it all depended on Missouri and Andrea, as a leader, he supposedly contributed the most. Speaking of encountering many ship girls I had never seen before near the Mediterranean Sea, I even encountered the battle cruiser King Kong. King Kong, who was not built by anyone and completely awakened in the sea, actually did not appear in the east but in the west. Although historically speaking, women who returned to study abroad started, launched, and completed construction in British shipyards. It is also possible that the King Kong that came to the west sank, and on this basis King Kong awakened here. Although he knew it was impossible, Sugu still asked curiously, do you have any information about Fuzang? You remember Fuzu, that's right, the king of football. Maya nodded. I still remember Mutsu. Look, I really remember Mutsu, she is the most lustful. Speaking of which, there is a Mutsu who still owes me a promise. Sugu will never forget it and will remember it for the rest of his life. Ziwa, he said seriously, you can let us Mutsu return it, she will be happy. Sugu continued to ask, who knows where Ayanami and Shikinami are? You still remember me, you still owe me a ring. Please, Ayanami is just a little girl. She is already a girl. That won't work either. Compared to Lingbo and others, Sugu actually missed Fletcher. He was so cute, but he was still a girl, so he had to exercise restraint. Atago said, it doesn't matter, Ayanami shouldn't mind. But the military police will take my life. They are already being targeted. Do you know about Plan M? There are 2 Raisnon guys who treat me as a life and death enemy. Ruhi broke up the trouble, haha, if someone comes to the garrison once, you will serve London and counter-attack cuisine to them, and they will bully whomever. Work harder, and there is no guarantee that you can fish out Plan M or something like that. I don't have any ideas for Plan M, but there is no news about Colossus. It seems that she is doing well in the academy and is prosperous. Colossus is telling the truth, so it's better not to let her go. Atago was funny, Fuzu, Mutsu, we actually wanted to look around at first, but Ziwakaku was counting the time and thought you were almost back to the tutelage, so he urged us to hurry up when he found us. Wait until we get back to the tutelage. And then you never came back. Ruhi got up and slapped the case. By saying something casually like this, Sugu knew his intimidating power. For some reason, Sugu still wanted to show some apology when he mentioned his departure. If you want to apologize, shouldn't you kneel down? Although I was sorry, Sugu would not do it. After all, he would kneel to the sky and kneel to his parents. To be honest, it's not my fault, it's just that the game was abandoned. Of course, he also knew that Maya was just talking in anger, and he would not really ask you to kneel down. Anyway, Sugu looked at Maya without any smile. The girl was obviously frightened and said, I'm not afraid if you steal my equipment, and I'm not afraid if you break it and don't repair it. I remind you not to harass me, I am not Helena. Also, oh, I was just talking casually. Sugu really saw it this time. If he wanted to tremble, he had to look at Atago. It's just a trivial matter, and it's up to Ziwahi to make trouble. Speaking of which, Atago, do you know? I heard the Admiral told me before that when you come back, you must stand in a row, and the family must be neat. Sugu retorted, did I say that? Didn't you say that? Hee. Ruhi was in need of a fight. Sugu suddenly thought of something and asked Cao Sheng out of curiosity, you are outside, can anyone recognize that you are Cao Sheng class? He continued to joke and said, aren't you going to open a shop? Otherwise, I will take you to Sichuanjiu to select materials, such as pots, pans, stoves and so on. At this point, the college should not have a holiday yet. I remember that my classmates are still here study in the academy. I will take you to see the academy and introduce you to them. By the way, it must be very exciting. It is true that the figure has become taller and the temperament has become more outstanding. They are more beautiful than an ordinary family, and they will definitely show off well if taken out. Being an admiral, showing off your boat is a very important thing. Then I remembered that I should go to the garrison next door first. In name, I was bringing Kaohsiung here to see Kaohsiung. I feel like I have become a tool for you to show off, which is not something to be happy about. Maya shook his head. After finally getting acquainted with each other, Sugu said, "How can you be so sensitive? Showing off to you shows that you are very powerful and you should be happy." Saying this, Sugu was just thinking about it. Atago snapped his fingers. "Okay, Admiral. You will accompany us to Chuangzhou when the time comes, and we will help you show off, then it's settled. Talk later." Ruhi smiled beside him. I knew someone would say that, but I only dare to think about it but not do it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 640. Back on the cruise ship, Sugu was thinking about what would happen if Bismarck and Hood met. This time he finally saw it. Well, I couldn't use the word finally. It was already afternoon when I left the cafeteria kitchen, and I decided to go see Z Driver. What a cute little loli. Walking through the corridor next to the warehouse, I happened to see Bismarck and Hood. I decisively decided to stand there and wait and see, wondering if anything interesting would happen, and sure enough I saw an amazing scene. Although there was no fighting or taunting each other, it was fun. The two people walked past each other, Hood holding ginger and fish cakes, while Bismarck didn't pay much attention to Oscar and was always alone. There was no greeting, both of them had straight faces, and they passed each other like this. However, before it was over, one of them walked up the steps, and the other stood at the bottom of the steps and suddenly turned back. If you didn't look at the expressions, you would have thought that a couple who had not seen each other for a long time met somewhere. Seeing two people turn around and leave without saying a word again is like a couple forgetting each other after breaking up. Hood's glasses reflected in the sunlight. She adjusted them, but she walked further and further away without noticing Sugu. His short silver-gray hair was blown by the sea breeze, but Bismarck spotted Sugu, who was smiling happily. She was very aware of her admiral's bad taste, but she was still very serious in front of others and would not show her disdain. She walked up to Sugu and asked, "Admiral, why are you here?" Sugu was still thinking that it was a pity that there was no Prince Eugen by Bismarck's side, and there was no Prince of Wales by Hood's side. After all, something was missing. Seeing that Bismarck was approaching, he replied, "I'm going to see the Z Driver." "Where are you going?" "It's not the weekend, the little loli is probably going to class at this time." Walking around. There was not much to do in the garrison, and Bismarck was not very interested in anything. If she doesn't exercise and prefers to sit by the dock and enjoy the breeze, Prince Eugen will often find her at this time and stay with her. Sugu said, "Together." Bismarck nodded. Being able to stay with the admiral was better than blowing the wind. The two people walked like this, exited the corridor and climbed the steps. Bismarck suddenly said, "Admiral, you look fat. It should be fine." Saying this, Sugu lifted up his clothes and looked at his abdominal muscles. "I haven't exercised consciously since I left the town for several months. To be honest, my reputation is just like pigs. No, it can't be said to be raising pigs. As a maid, she would never make any plans for her master. As long as it's not too much, it should be said that the pigs can eat whatever they want, as much as they want. She is only responsible for feeding them, so gaining fat is an obvious problem. I will train with me tomorrow. Bismarck was silent for a long time before speaking. Don't worry, I just came back and want to rest. Sugu saw Bismarck staring at him. I'll look at the situation. I'll speak to Lexington. It's useless to talk to her. Well, tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow is better. I'll get up early. Sugu also knew that if he didn't want to exercise, he didn't have to go, and Bismarck would be fine. I just think that Bismarck is mainly for his own good health, and the ship girls are so good, so in order to be worthy of them, he has to work hard instead of being indulgent. There is nothing you can do if your face is not handsome enough, but at least it should be clean, tidy, and strong, not decadent. After he agreed, Sugu teased, Bismarck, if you exercise every day, will you develop abdominal muscles if you continue like this? Well, you already have abdominal muscles. Bismarck suddenly looked back at Sugu, raised his foot and launched a whip kick. Sugu hastily stretched out his hand to block it. Slow. Don't be so demanding. Sugu waved his hand. Bismarck tried to provoke him, even without strength, York City can easily defeat you. Oh, York City. Sugu sighed deeply. To be honest, he felt more and more powerless towards York City now. As a result of being constantly tricked, I am now gradually becoming smarter. The force value is trained with Bismarck, the whip kick is getting better and better, and the grappling is also good. If it continues to grow like this, it might become like a business, which is really difficult to handle. However, thinking that no matter how strong York City becomes, she is still her own ship girl. She is not allowed to be flattened and rounded by herself. Sugu said, exercising the body is not to be brave and fierce. Bismarck remained silent. She would not argue with Sugu. She knew that her admiral was good at quibbles. Looking around, Sugu suddenly asked, speaking of Bismarck, do you want me to teach you how to bullyhood and calmly laugh at her stuffing a cat? Bismarck didn't look back. Then you teach her how to laugh at me. Surprised in his heart, when did Bismarck become so sharp? Sugudu said, no. Bismarck took a deep breath, my Lord Admiral. With a bad husband and an even worse sister Baizai, Bismarck really found life very difficult. My wife. Sugu responded like this. Even though Bismarck was expressionless, he could still tell that Bismarck was very happy. I walked into the complex building and walked outside the classroom. I didn't intend to interrupt the class and just stood outside. Looking through the window, Zeppelin was standing on the podium, wearing a shirt and a hip skirt. Sugu had a feeling that she was really suitable for classrooms and white-collar workers. He was writing and drawing on the blackboard with a piece of chalk in one hand. He wrote a long document and was talking with a pointer. It was rare to see such a bright smile on Zeppelin's face. Under the podium, there were people who listened carefully, like Firefly and Trust. Some people have given up treatment, and Thatcher is sleeping. Sugu knew that this little idiot would not change despite repeated admonitions. It seemed that Chi Bolin had given up on her and didn't care about her at all. He thought of Zeppelin's teaching policies. After all, he had also been Zeppelin's student. I don't like to take roll calls in class. You can listen if you want to, and if you don't listen, I rarely take care of you. Looking around the classroom, Sugu looked for Z Driver among the many people. Z1 and Z16, who are already young girls, can be easily recognized. Z17, Z18, and Z21 are listening to the class honestly. Z28 is wearing glasses and sitting dignifiedly, looking very attentive. As for Z24, he is sleepy and barely maintains his sitting posture without leaning on the table. Above. Z31 with twin ponytails was a traitor to a primary school student. Sugu keenly noticed that she was not listening at all and seemed to be drawing something. Dinosaur or monster? He was curious. I thought that I liked to draw blindly in textbooks, either drawing beautiful girls or drawing monsters. What are you looking at? Except for Sugu's hearing, Bismarck's voice was very soft, drowned in Zeppelin's voice, and did not disturb the class at all. I'm just looking at Z31, what do you think she draws? Remind her to pay attention to class. Bismarck still has a bit of a German sister's self-consciousness. Forget it. After speaking, Sugu looked at his watch. It would probably be a while before get out of class ended, so he and Bismarck stood in the corridor outside the classroom. The office was right next to her. When London went out, she saw two people and she walked over. Regardless of her cooking skills, she is still an absolute lady and can do everything. She is a very powerful person, but her personality is a bit weak. London stood next to Sugu and found that Chi Bolin was very attentive and did not notice everyone. She said, since the Z drive came back, Chi Berlin is very happy in class every day. She likes the Z drive, and there are books on her desk. Talk about how to teach children. Sugu heard about Zeppelin and said, it's rare for Zeppelin to have fans. London was funny, Admiral, you see, many people are deserting. Fortunately, Helena is not here. She likes murderous people the most, and Xiao is very afraid of her. Xiao is afraid that she has a historical connection. But Helena is really fierce. London just finished saying that CAO and CAO had arrived. Helena came over, and then Tianlong and Long Tian also came over. Looking at the classroom, Sugu said, Z1 and Z16 are also in class together. They are girls and they always feel like they are making a show. Their appearance looks very different from Sullivan and the others. London said, you can't just look at looks, otherwise look at Veneto. Helena obviously learned badly. She said, I can't do anti-submarine, reconnaissance, and torpedoes. It's a shame among destroyers. Helena, let me remind you that Veneto has returned to the town hall. Please pay attention to yourself. I know. Thinking of something, Sugu said, Helena, you need to discipline Utali Loli well, they are really lawless. Helena asked, when will they be allowed to go to class? Let them go to class tomorrow. Seeing that most of the little Lolita were not paying attention, Sugu added, speaking of which, as ship girls, they should still be like this after many years. The small house will not become a big house. They are all little girls. Think about how many books they read. It's of no use. Helena replied, as long as they want to grow up, there is no problem. There is nothing wrong with learning more. Sugu opened his mouth to ask for Black Venetia, but finally decided to forget it. He keenly saw two little girls, Suk Bader and Odin, passing notes, and curiously asked, when I come back, how are Master Su and Odin's big container? I didn't see it. They put it in another place. Once it rained and the water rose, they moved the container to a higher ground and put bricks underneath. Now there is no need to worry. While talking, Sugu looked at everyone in class and felt deeply. He remembered that he really admired some people at the time, reading novels, taking care of games, and playing them, but no matter which subject he took, he could learn it casually, to the point where he was really irritating people. The junior high school is the top scorer in the local county, and the college entrance examination is also among the top 3 universities in the country. Compared to myself, if I hadn't come here, my life would have been ordinary. Not long after, Sugu looked at his watch again, thinking it was almost time to finish class. He returned to the classroom window and found that Z31 was still drawing. The little girl's mouth was still opening and closing, as if she was humming a little tune, looking forward to the end of get out of class. He didn't know what he drew on the note, but he imagined it in his mind, like a slime, and then a warrior with a sword. Sitting behind Z31, Sullivan spotted Sugu. She opened her mouth to shout, but finally shut up. Not long after, Z31 finally discovered Sugu. That was not a happy expression to see the admiral. The little girl's face was full of shyness and fear. What should this feeling be like? Sugu thought. He deserted in class and saw his father, principal, head teacher, and director of the teaching department all standing outside the window staring at him. It was so scary. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 641. Chi Bolin smoothed her silver hair and reached out to touch her earlobe. She was looking coldly at Sugu, who was sitting on a stone pier by the grass not far away. Z1 and Z16 were sitting next to her. The brown-haired girl Z1 has a ponytail, and the blonde girl Z16 has short hair. Although Sugu was called Admiral on New Year's Day, he still treated Sugu subconsciously as a student. There are people in the guardhouse who are fooling around. Zeppelin, you are about to fall too. Teacher-student love. She was very disdainful of these jokes. Akage was good, Lexington was good, Bismarck was good, everything was good. It would be best if there was no admiral. The thin willow leaf earrings were swaying. Chi Bolin looked at Sugu and thought to himself as he walked. He is inconspicuous in the academy, but his grades are actually pretty good. Although he knew about the relationship between the other party and Akage from the beginning, Akage didn't speak, and he didn't look like a subordinate trying to figure out his superior's intentions. In short, regardless of the exam or anything else, I didn't deliberately show off, and of course I didn't intentionally be harsh. The results were real and effective. I have known Akage before, so I won't discuss it. In addition, the initial feeling is that the other party cannot fish the boat. It's not like some students who can kidnap college faculty and staff and are eloquent. As I gradually got in touch with him, I got to know him better, and my level of favorability was pretty good. For example, York City seems to like to make trouble, play devil's advocate, and always calls the admiral a bastard. But it can also be seen that he attaches great importance to the admiral and will definitely stand in front of danger, regardless of anything. He is reserved towards adults, and although he clearly has a good impression, he is reluctant to give the ring, as if he is always worried about something. In this situation, other admirals would have been married long ago. Although I think about it afterwards, if this person is given a ring, the other one will also be given a ring. No matter how strong a man is, he will become a scum. Anyway, I don't want to deal with such trivial matters if I love marriage or not. However, there is one thing that has to be taken care of. The other party is open to Lolita, young girls, and little girls. A problem arose. The Z driver who originally liked him was going to stay away from him. Absolutely not, no one can take it away. With a lot of considerations in mind, Chi Bolin walked to Sugu's side. What are you guys saying? Get out of class was over. In order to get to know these Z drivers well, Sugu followed them to the grass. He had already discovered Zeppelin. He looked at Z1 and Z16, the two girls were coquettishly coy. Z1 and Z16 told me that they no longer want to go to class. Feeling panicked, Zeppelin asked, what should I say? I think they are girls too. If they don't want to go to class, they can't go to class. For example, Javelin doesn't have class, Fletcher doesn't have class either, and Destroyer Queen doesn't talk about it. Zeppelin said, the Javelin can't do anything to her. Fletcher is a maid, and then the Queen is a tailor. She sewed many of your clothes, and she also knitted the New Year sweater. What are Z1 and Z16 doing if they don't go to class? Sugu said, Z16 wants to be a cook. Z16's legs were bored on the ground. She said, I have learned a lot from Sister Emden. It doesn't matter if I am a cook. I eat and cook myself. Beer, sausages, bread, everything can't be missing. If I don't learn more knowledge, what will I do in the future? Zeppelin felt that his plan was completely disrupted. It doesn't matter, the town government will take care of them. Zeppelin said contemptuously, if you don't learn more knowledge, how will you be self-reliant in the future? What if someone abandons the garrison again? Thinking that you were here to cause trouble, Sugu said, how could I abandon everyone? It just happened to be smooth and fluent, but it was deliberately used to make a fuss, which Zeppelin couldn't do. It was better to think of other ways to attack. When something came to mind, she asked, you have been studying in the academy for a long time, right? Do you remember the names of the Z drivers? Z driver is also very concerned about whether he can remember his own name. He was able to fall in love with Zeppelin all of a sudden because of this reason. Sugu pretended to think hard and didn't speak for a long time. It wasn't until he saw the pride on Zeppelin's face that he said, the names are very long and difficult to pronounce, but I remember them all. Z16 is called Friedrich, and Z1 is called Lebrecht. Zeppelin was expressionless, thinking that as long as he studied hard in the academy, these were all trivial matters. When mentioning the names, Sugu said, do you have unique names for Z1 and Z16? Z16 said disappointedly, not yet. No matter what name you choose, it must be approved by the admiral. Sugu said, Z16, how about pomegranate? It turned into fruit. The names of the fruits are pretty nice too, Luhungti, Luzigwa. Then let's have pomegranate. Z16 felt that it didn't sound good, it was a perfunctory homophone, but the admiral thought it was okay. This time Sugu shook his head, let's forget it. It won't sound good if everyone calls you Sister Pomegranate. Why? Sister Pomegranate is a funny character. After Sugu finished speaking, he wanted to tell a story, but it was difficult to tell a nonsensical story. There is no exaggerated performance to match, and it is not funny to say it. What's that called? We also need to think carefully, we need to consider the birth date, it should be easy to understand, it should be nice and connotative, and it should not be easy to give people nicknames. And it cannot be the same name. For example, your Lexington sister is called Shen Yun, I just feel bad, there must be a lot of people with this name. Sugu thought of Li Min, Zhang Wei and Wang Wei again. If he shouted on the street, many people might answer, but at least it would be better than being called Yang Wei. Z16 looked curious, and Sugu continued, don't worry, it's best to invite Bismarck, Hipper, Blucher, Bazai, and Prince Eugen to discuss it together. We will definitely be able to come up with a good name. Sister Bazai, let's forget it. Bazai has absolutely no dignity as a battleship, and no one cares about her. Although she had just woken up and matured, she was still very reliable, but she soon learned the news about her sister, and suddenly she became a deadbeat otaku. The true lonely queen of the north was only a blip, living in everyone's memory. Z16 was chirping here, while Zeppelin was speechless. He was really eloquent and very good at deceiving girls and little Lolita. In a short period of time, it seems that Z1 and Z16 have become closer. This can be regarded as stealing the chicken but losing the rice. I was a little discouraged for a while. Z28 sat quietly not far away, afraid of being disturbed, and Z24 leaned against her sleepily. Z17 and Z18 were fighting, Z21 was squatting on the ground looking at something, and Z31 was afraid to see anyone. Sugu glanced at Chibolin and actually sensed the other party's plan. Unlike York City, this girl especially wants to be recognized. He said, Zeppelin, I heard everyone said that you are very good to them. As an admiral, Sugu needs to treat everyone equally, but like Lexington, he takes more care of his sister. Everyone has things that are close to each other and there is nothing they can do about it. As a German ship, Zeppelin is much better than the Z driver. He often takes the Z driver out to play and buy gifts. Anyway, as an instructor, the college's salary has been generous, and she has a lot of savings. No matter how generous it is, it can't support Akaga's eating and eating. It can be said that it has eaten up a lot of houses, and has also earned a reputation as a starved person. This is irrelevant. Aunt Zeppelin often took us to eat good food and took us to many places to play. The amusement park in Sichuanjiu is really big. It is called a rotating barrel or something. I felt dizzy after sitting on it once. We also, after playing the bumper cars, Aunt Zeppelin told us directly that we could play as long as we wanted. So many of us took half of the bumper cars, and then we got off, and many people complained that we had occupied it for too long. Thinking of the original situation, Z1 put her legs together and held her hands, sticking out her tongue. Her tone was quite girlish and there was nothing steady about it. Aunt Zeppelin also told us many stories, taught us many principles, and taught us how to live outside. She said that there used to be ship girls who would kidnap destroyers, but I don't know if it's true. They say ship girls are kind, but in fact they often do bad things with good intentions. The justice of Gan Niang comes from the heart. If she thinks she is doing the right thing, she will do it. Faced with gangsters committing crimes, some ship girls feel that they should be given a chance. Some ship girls feel that evil must not be tolerated and must be punished, and they should be killed directly. Sugu remembered what he had heard before. For the sake of the admiral, a ship girl failed to lure the destroyer back to the townhouse with candies. She relied on her physical strength and allowed the destroyer to fight and took her back to the townhouse. I thought that everyone would like my garrison, but I just lacked the understanding, otherwise they would fall in love with it. He was forcibly taken back to the governor's house, and he went to comfort him every day, bringing a lot of snacks, biscuits, juice, and so on. He also told them stories and jokes, and also told them aggrievedly about what happened in the past of the tutelage, and how the establishment of the tutelage was difficult, but everyone was strong. The tutelage needed people, and we had no choice but to do this. He also said things like, we have no choice but to regret it, because we have a common enemy, we should unite, there is no other way, you are already the ship girl of our garrison, you can't leave, if you are not experienced in the world. The little girl's anger was probably mostly gone at that time. It reminds me of Song Jiang, the famous villain in Water Margin. He tricked people into going up the mountain and then killed the whole family. He could persuade people to go up the mountain with righteousness or hypocrisy. Of course, there were only a few such incidents, and the gendarmerie severely punished them. After talking a lot, Z1 saw the smug look on Zeppelin's face, and seemed to feel some kind of tit-for-tat atmosphere. She said, well, the admiral is also very good to us. It's obvious that we are not strong, so he arranged for us to attack. In the game, you can gain favor through sorties and expeditions, and it's the same here. It is understandable, because the ship girl is very happy to be recognized by the admiral, and the patting on the head before the attack, and the praise when she returns to the guardhouse also make people happy. These are the main reasons that can increase the goodwill. Sitting next to him, Sugu blushed at Z1's praise. He thought that when he asked you guys to attack in the first place, he just mistakenly believed that the storm was about fire and the Z drive was stronger. Otherwise, if I really want to say it, I will still practice special driving, especially in the Valkyrie event. Ayanamai shined and killed deep-sea turpits in one fell swoop. But in the final analysis, compared to Z drivers and special drivers, Sugu still prefers powerful destroyers like Fantasy, Lafite, and Fletcher that don't require any coordination, especially because their vertical graphics are great. It reminds me of the Z-22 again. I really didn't like the vertical painting, so I removed it, which made me feel really guilty. He was very satisfied with the compliment, but looking at Chi Bolin, Sugu was amused. Don't praise me, praise Chi Bolin more. She is so good to you, you must always listen to her. The girls nodded, they liked Zeppelin. I have always wanted to have a big sister like Lexington, but Bismarck didn't care about anyone except Bazai, Xiaozai, and Prince Eugen. As for Hindenburg, forget it. Sugu smiled happily, thank you, Aunt Chi-Bolin. Thank you, Aunt Zeppelin. Sitting on the stone pier, Zeppelin crossed his legs and snorted, I'll give you a chance. Sugu quickly said, thank you, Sister Chi-Bolin. Zeppelin finally nodded with satisfaction this time. At the same time, she suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Why did she feel like an outsider? A deep sense of frustration. Sugu said, Chi-Bolin is an instructor at the academy, a very powerful one. Your admiral, was her student before. Zeppelin waved his hand, you admirals are also very powerful. You used to earn enough credits in the academy all at once. Z16 chuckled. Standing not far away, Bismarck withdrew her attention and looked up at the sunset. Prince Eugen stood beside her, thinking to himself, what a powerful admiral. He won the favor of the little destroyer, and also favored Zeppelin.